Welcome to Legion of Myths Game Master Insight. Tonight, our panel of seasoned tabletop RPG veterans dives headfirst into personal stories, bold expectations, and powerful insights. Get ready to ignite your imagination and elevate your next gaming session. All right, welcome to Legion of Myths Game Master Insight. I'm your host, John Maxley-Auschlow, and I am truly grateful you're with us for tonight's discussion. So, what is Game Master Insight? Well, it's a forum where our panelists share experiences, ideas, and advice on tonight's topic of how to run a Troupe-Style Tabletop RPG, highlighting their unique perspectives and expectations. I sincerely hope you enjoy this conversation. Please consider supporting Legion of Myth through the links in the live stream's description. Rumble rants and super chats of less than $20 I will read at the end of each segment. $20 or more, I will interrupt the segment to read your rant or chat as immediately as I can. $50 or more, and I will take a drink in your name, and you can force the panel to answer any tabletop RPG related question of your choice right then and there. If we reach $100 or more in Super Chats or Rumble Rants, there'll be a $25 Palladium Books or Drive-Thru RPG gift card giveaway during, we'll call it the rando portion of the show, towards the end of the live stream. Legion of Myth YouTube members and Rumble subscribers, as well as tonight's Super Chatters and Rumble Ranters, have the opportunity to win, but you must be watching at the time of the giveaway to claim your victory, else it rolls over to next week. Remember, Legion of Myth moderators will time out, even ban people who attack any panelist or chatter. Attack the argument, not the person. And for the love of God, keep your various social media beefs off my show. Come on, it's the new year. Let's start it off well. Please like this video and subscribe to all the panelist channels found in the description. And thank you for your time and support. And with that out of the way, let's meet our GMI panelists for tonight. First, we have Doc Flamingo, first time on the show. Sir, please introduce yourself and briefly tell us what products or media you create and your tabletop RPG experience.
Hi, Doc Flamingo. I've got one game out on Drive-Thru right now, Ashes and Empires. I have a second one, Age of Blood and Iron, should be coming out in about a month. I started gaming in 1980 at the age of 11. Did it for about 20 years, fell out of the hobby for a long time, came back just within the last year. I've got a YouTube channel on here, Doc Flamingo also. It's sad and small, but I promise if somebody actually watches it, I'll make a video more than quarterly.
All right. And then next to him, we have Sean Mage's Musings. Same thing for you, sir. Introduce yourself, briefly tell us what products or media you create and your tabletop RPG experience.
Yeah, I'm Sean, the creator of Mage's Musings. I recap games and talk D&D on my show with puppets. It's family-friendly fun. I've been doing RPGs since the mid-'80s. Started with basic D&D up on the shelf, as you can see. Moved on to Palladium, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, fun stuff, AD&D, all that. I've been gaming ever since.
All right, and finally we have Bear, who has no clue about tonight's questions. He came in at the last second to fill up an empty square. He's like the was it Hollywood Squares, the upper left corner that nobody wants.
Riley. Charles Nelson Riley of your show, sir.
There you go. Please introduce yourself for the one person who doesn't know you, and briefly tell us what products or media you create in your tabletop RPG experience.
I'll actually play this one straight because it's a new year. I am Bear the GM. I have a channel. I do live plays on my channel. I do live streams on my channel. And sometimes I actually talk about gaming stuff as well. I'm also the publisher of the Heroic RPG, which is in production as we speak and should be out when it gets out. I'm also working on a couple of other projects. I also do some creating of narrative fiction by using smart tools and annoying the crap out of everybody who thinks AI are going to dominate our world and take us apart. And I have never done troop play. I know nothing about troop play, so I guess we can just call me Troop Curious.
Well, this is going to be fun because I think all the questions are how-tos, but we'll find out.
Well, I mean, I can always pontificate and pull shit out of my butt.
All right, well, let's start with Doc Flamingo. We're going to start with segment number 1, which basically is what the heck is troop play? So, Doc, how do you define the troop style play in tabletop RPGs, and what experiences have shaped your perspectives on its advantages and disadvantages?
Okay, well, there's two major definitions I hear people throw around. Some people say true play means multiple GMs in the same campaign, and that definitely qualifies. But also, just building a campaign around an organization, which the players are central, in my opinion, also counts. And that's where I tend to lean most heavily. I'm very big on followers and hirelings. I think having them around has all manner of advantages to running a game. It's a little extra paperwork, but once you get used to it, it's quite easy. Multiple game masters is a little trickier. It works best with like module style games, just because you have better continuity there because the story is kind of contained in there. For example, we ran it when we first started running second edition AD&D. We basically did an all module campaign, started Hamlet, Elemental Evil, and we switched back and forth in that between three game masters. That worked well. When we ran Top Secret, same thing, because that was mostly a module campaign. If you're doing like original material, it's a little more dicey because then there's significant and noticeable continuity issues. But a lot depends on the game masters and how in sync they are.
Okay. So what drew you to troop style gaming?
It first came up kind of accidentally. We were running a 2E D&D game. They had just vanquished their first dragon, nice big horde, and we ended the session there. And when we started up the next one, I was thinking, well, I could just stick them in the tavern and have them gloat and decide what they're going to spend this money on. But instead, I just put them right back in the cave. I was like, okay, you guys going to haul this out of here? Who has room in their pack for this? And they kind of looked around at each other, and I didn't say anything. So, okay, he's serious. So they came up with a plan. They all started staging the stuff at the mouth of the cave, and they sent a guy back to town to get some wagons and sacks and chests and pulleys and ropes. And of course, I figured, well, they had been asking around about the dragon, and everybody sees this guy's coming here with looking for all this gear. So now everybody knows this thing is dead. So local bandits show up. They get harassed by everybody on the way. And when they finally do fight their way back to town, there's the Lord and his trustiest checker waiting to get their rightful portion. And they wound up with a small fraction of what they pulled out of there. But it was a lot of fun. And so they started, and I kind of forgot about it from there. But they immediately started hiring guards. And they got, well, we need a cook and a blacksmith since we have all these people. And before we knew it, they had a whole wagon train of like 24 people with a bunch of and horses. They're bringing livestock around, and it just became hugely fun. We do entire sessions sometimes that were just moving from one place to the other. Some of the boys would get in trouble at the tavern. They'd have to bail them out. One of the Teamsters' cousin was going to leave because their cousin was kidnapped. And they're like, no, we're going to help you. And they put off a very lucrative job to go help their friend. And there's a lot of advantages to it. First of all, it's a money sink that they're actually getting something for. So it's not just like not just taking their stuff arbitrarily. So they get pissy about it. They're actually like building an organization. It's a ready supply of characters in case somebody dies, or if you have guest players, you have this whole cast of characters they can choose from. It creates sort of a mobile community for the party if they're on the move a lot. This way they kind of have the effects of a home base without having to stay in one area. They start to get attached to the NPCs too. And then there's all kinds of things you can do that. It's also very easy to introduce job ideas because you can have, they go to the next town, the quartermaster disappears for a while. Okay, I got these leads. We've been offered these jobs. And that makes a nice organic in-game way for you to just lay out possibilities and for them to have them discuss them as opposed to just you throw out a rumor, but nobody really heard and they forgot about it. This way, they're all sitting there ready to discuss what they want to do. So that makes presenting ideas a lot easier. And it's a good way to automate a lot of the downtime stuff. Like you can have somebody take care of fencing goods, replacing things, getting new horses and feed and stuff like that, and not have to worry about any of that.
Okay. You guys have anything you want to follow up with Doc on that? Or
No, not specifically. Other than maybe the definition. The definition is so broad. As he says that there's multiples. I've seen one where I don't play this way, but everybody has a pool of characters. Nobody has ownership of any specific characters. You just sort of draw from the pool, and you might even swap out, and somebody else will take that character. I've seen that, and it's like, no, I wouldn't necessarily want to play that way, but that is definitely one way to do it.
It's interesting you say that because what Doc has said right there, I've never thought of as troop play, and so I don't think I have any questions that are tailored toward that. Now, what you said, Sean, was closer in my experience, but you kept the same character, but you actually had. I've seen people with like a portfolio of characters. Okay, this one is off, taking 3 months to learn a new spell, so I can't play him for 3 months, so I'm using this other character instead. Or I've got 3 character sheets in front of me, and we're going in with like 15 people that are about ready to ransack that dragon or whatever. That's always been my experience in seeing, or the little tiny time I was involved in troop play. So the idea of hirelings and guards, to me, I never really thought of that as troop play itself.
Yeah, I was about to say that's exactly how I play it, is the way you just described. Everybody has their characters and their cadre of characters. There's no overlap. You don't necessarily play somebody else's, but you're developing them concurrently, and you swap out as needed based on the situation.
Yeah, it can be very useful to everybody have, and also you can have different kind of tiered characters. Like you have main characters, you can have backup characters who you can throw into the spotlight every now. Like it could be fun to, like, you've got your guys who are just kind of the camp jerks, who like kickers and stuff, but send them out to do something once in a while. Or the main party, or if the main party has like injured people and they're just going to rest for a while, you can see what's going on back at camp. Maybe something interesting happens. Also, if you're playing like very high lethality games, or ones where healing is slow, you have other characters to roll into. I don't like the idea of people sharing characters. That seems kind of weird. And like some people also are fine running multiple characters at once. I don't like doing it myself. I would have one at a time. I don't mind having multiple characters in the game. I don't want to operate more than one at a time, because that becomes very distracting. But
although you might be able to swap out mid-session if the situation demands it. But one at a time. Not counting henchmen. I do have my players who they do run their henchmen concurrently, but the henchman is sort of a situation where, as the DM, I will override what the henchman, like, generally speaking, you'll guide the henchman to what you want to do, but I might roll and say, no, the henchman's not gonna go running towards that dragon. No.
All right, well, let's segue over to you then, Sean. Ask the same question to you, which was, how do you define troop style play in tabletop RPGs, and what experiences have shaped your perspective on its advantages or disadvantages?
Well, I mean, like I said, it's basically the idea for me, and the way I apply it is players are running, or rather developing, multiple characters concurrently. All right, even though you run one at a time. And it's funny because I never used to play it. I mean, I played the old-fashioned, we all have our one character, and that's the one we're developing. And it just sort of evolved into my game, whether I wanted it to or not. And then I realized, hey, this is actually much more interesting, much more fun. And then what you'll get is situations where, a character's died, so let's contrive the new character in. Or, this character broke his leg. All right, he's out to heal for 3 weeks. Bring a new character in. And it just started happening that way. And I play D&D First Ed, and I use the training rules. There are characters who are off training for weeks on end, or even if you're not using training rules, you got a wizard who's studying magic, learning a new spell. That can be months. So you do need somebody to swap out, unless everybody just wants to fast forward the calendar. And the other thing is using one-to-one time. Once I started doing that, I started seeing the necessity for troop style play, because you're monitoring the calendar, and for that very reason, certain characters are out for a while, or they're occupied, and unless you're flash forwarding the calendar, you need the alternative. You need to be able to bring in some other characters. So it just kind of evolved into my game, and now it's just part of it.
Okay. Do you ever do the multiple GM version of troop play?
Never. I'm pretty much the forever DM of my group, but even if I was playing in a rotation where we all had DMs willing to do it, I would never want to do the same campaign. I don't want a DM to pick up from my campaign, and I don't want to pick up from somebody else's. I will play another person's game, but I don't want to, I don't want to have to pick up that thread, and then we have to juggle our styles. I think that's a recipe.
No, I agree with you on that personally. like I same thing. I don't ruin my game, and then I don't want to ruin your game.
Yeah.
So
pause my game and play yours. I'm happy to, but no, right. I'm not handing you the reins to my game. I've only done that once. I took over for a friend who was running a West Marches style campaign because he burned himself out, and it was like after 4 or 5 sessions, it's like, oh, you're not coming back, are you? Okay, well, that's it. I'm done sitting in as your substitute DM.
Okay. All right. Let's go over to Bear.
Hi.
Bear, you get to define troop style play. What are your thoughts on troop style play from what either you know or you've heard here, and how or what experience have shaped your perspective on why you like it or don't like it, its advantages, disadvantages?
So the first time I ever heard about troop style play was back in the old days on the Trek RPG, trek-rpg.net boards, where we all talk Star Trek RPGs. And someone brought up this concept of troop play, explaining if you've got a command crew and you're beaming down to a situation where you need to rescue some hostages, and one of your players is the science officer, and the other player is the counselor, and the third player is the the medical officer. Maybe they're not the best choices for the raid. So instead of having them sit with their thumbs up their butt on the starship, they would play red shirts, and they would have like a couple of red shirts they've made. And as red shirts get killed, they'll make new red shirts. So every player has 2 or 3 red shirts. So that way they can pull out that character. Okay, I'm not in the scene normally with my primary medical officer. Well, I've got Ensign Skippy. Ensign Skippy's got a red shirt, a phaser, and he's ready to go. Let's see if he survives the experience. And then that seemed like a really interesting idea to me. I've never been able to convince any of my face-to-face groups over the years to try it because they prefer the more soap operatic style of game I run. So they always want their characters to be around. They always want to focus on their characters. But I've always thought it would be an interesting thing to do. And I would be very, very open to the experience of trying it. So for me, it's like I said, I'm troop curious. I want to give it a try and see if it works. I want to see if players can actually take their troop characters seriously and not just use them as an excuse to not act like their main character and be just a force of chaos in the game, which would be what I would be most worried about probably. Or alternately, them getting really attached to their troop character and then having to find a way to phase out the main character and promote the troop character up the tree.
I've actually seen that.
Yeah, that can happen. I've had PCs get wrecked, and then because I have a lot of my games have permanent injuries, and then one of their
newbie, I get a follow-up question before you get to talk over me. So I'll over there and put you in
No. Actually,
I'm messing. Relax.
I'm new. I don't know the rules yet.
No. Bears on the old rules. We've changed for the new season, so you're good.
I didn't get the memo.
No, you didn't. Well, you came in at the last second. Thank you for filling up that square.
There we go. That was waiting for the thank you.
And Paul in.
I'm in. Let's do it.
I'm trying to think it because almost all of these that I have left are about multiple game masters.
I'll talk about that bullshit. I mean, that fascinating concept.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, if we don't have experience, do you have experience with it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then absolutely. I would like to hear. I'd like to hear more about because I've had the experience personally of having multiple game masters as like a transition, but never as in this guy and then the next guy and then this guy and then that guy and then Mage's Musings and then this guy over here. All of a sudden like co-DMing over the course of a year. I've never had that. So.
Yeah, I had well, go ahead, Doc. I'll let you talk some more.
Okay, well, my experiences with multiple game masters in the same campaign have basically been module-heavy games where we're running modules because it's far, far less of an issue because, the continuity is in the modules. And yes, people have different styles of game mastering, but as long as everybody likes the game masters involved, it generally works out. When you're doing a created story campaign, then you're going to start running into problems. I really don't like what you did there. Now I got to work this in. And so that's I like to avoid wherever possible. Although some people are fine with it. I mean, I suppose much depends on how in sync, the various people are. There are games built entirely around that. I've never played it, but I've read Ars Magica, which is designed specifically to trade
People
out
put that in the chat. Yep.
between game masters. And the way it worked, everybody would basically have three characters. You'd have your mage, you'd have a companion, and a grog. The companion was like a significant person, but not a mage, and a grog could be like one of the guards, a cook, something, whatever. And the way it worked, at whoever was game mastering, somebody would be playing their mage, somebody would be playing a companion, and somebody would be playing a grog, and then you'd rotate along this axis. So like the guy who game mastered last would now be playing the mage. And the idea, a part of that is because in that game, a lot of the mage's main activity happens in downtime. That's where they do their research and get more powerful and stuff. And you're kind of like being put upon to be sent on an adventure. It's like an interruption into your schedule. I suppose you could do that with a single game master and just have the players rotate through their characters. I don't see why that won't work. But yeah, just switching game masters as a matter of course in a free-form game, I would think would be a real mess. I wouldn't be interested in trying that.
Well, picking from what you said about modules, I mean, I imagine it would be a pain in the ass to share a module with another DM. And it wouldn't be fun, too, because if you're privy to what's in the module, now you have the spoilers and you have to metagame, right? Either to
what we
you don't
usually
know
do,
information or, or act on it. Either way.
what we would usually do is you'd run through the whole thing, however long it took, and then just switch out.
Before you switch. So you wouldn't be sharing the module. Got it.
Yeah. So,
I've done multiple. One of the places you'll most commonly do that is going to be in a LARP. When you're running, like I say, a Mind's Eye Theater Vampire LARP, you've got 30, 40 players. You can't just be one narrator running. You can be the head narrator, but you're going to have other narrators with you. And it works really well, and it doesn't. So, for example, in one campaign I was running in Vancouver, we had 4 narrators plus me as the head narrator. And one of our narrators was charged with running the Sabbat infiltration that was happening in the city. And Nick was really good at it. And at one point in time, I realized half the Primogen Council had been converted to the Sabbat. So I had to take him aside and go, hey, Nick, maybe slow that down a little bit before this becomes an unofficial Sabbat game. He's like, yeah, sorry, man, I got carried away. I'm like, no fucking shit. Because sometimes narrators think they're players, and that can be a problem. The other problem we had was running a game here in Montreal, and we had an NPC prince who was an absolute badass. And one of the players was playing a character. I can't remember if he was a sheriff, if he was the sheriff or something, but he got himself into a really bad place and fucked himself over. And the rest of the team, the rest of the elders, whenever, came together to take him down. And then as they were taking him down, and I'm running some stuff with a meeting with like the Ventru somewhere else. That's where I'm being as a narrator. One of the other narrators runs in and he goes, oh my God, the prince is here. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I go and I find out that basically the other narrator who was protecting this character for some fucking reason had the NPC prince show up and just beat the shit out of everybody and take out the guy that was about to get fucking turfed. And I'm like, you can't do that. They earned that. They plotted, they planned, they pulled it off, and you're now taking it away from them with a fucking DM fiat and a powerful GM NPC. So basically, you fucked them over. And it wasn't shocking. That game fell apart within a month, 2 months, it was done. Because people just stopped coming because they were really upset. They were really mad that this narrator had interfered with all their plans. I've never done co-GMing at a tabletop game. I imagine I would want to murder someone if I did that because I have a hard enough time letting players touch my world. As you well know, actually 2 of 3 of you, you've all played my games. Look at that. You all know how precious my worlds are to me. Can you imagine me giving up the reins of control to someone else?
Well, if you were to co-GM, I think at a simultaneous game, I think it would be a matter of assigning duties. Like you're the head DM, you're telling the story. Your co-DM is the one who's helping with the combat and the minis if you're using that sort of thing. Something you don't necessarily want to do or something that you want somebody else to handle while you kind of review notes. That could work. But yeah, if the co-DM is also...
Now that you say that, I actually did that one time, and it was a very, very successful... Now, it wasn't a campaign, it was a session. Before I joined the game, I helped the game, as for Vampire, I helped the game master narrate some scenes that he really wanted to get out there. He wanted to put more story element into the game. And when I wrote it up, he said, dude, I was so creeped out by what you wrote that I can't, he's like, I can't do this. Can you role play this as well? Role play these 3 characters? He did the other ones. I was like, sure, what the heck? Just tell me where my limits are. and the players ended up absolutely loving would you say the effects of what happened with that. So I think it can work, but I just don't think it could work over a long time, because Ron, for example, he and we definitely had different visions of how to game master and so forth, and but for at least that one incident, co-GMing did kind of work.
The other thing you have to be, I'm sorry, go.
Yeah, go ahead.
You have to be careful of is if you're running multiple game masters and you have player characters swap, if it's like a single party and you have GM player characters acting as NPCs in the group, that can be a huge source of strife if somebody is seen to be setting up their character while they're
attacking a rival,
or screwing somebody else over. So you have to have people that are like very respectful of each other when they're running games. Because I had never had a problem when we did it, but I've heard some horror stories of groups like almost ending up in fist fights because of stuff like that going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
DMs will get precious about their stories too, and and we've touched on this, but you rotate out, and players as well get precious about their characters, and that's where the Troupe style might fail. But yeah.
So I guess the last question I'll ask, and this is for all of you, is how do you introduce new gamers to Troupe play so that the new gamer understands the contrast between what we call like the traditional style, like what would we call it before, the heroic style, whatever, and the Troupe style play. So if you were to try to bring a new gamer into your Troupe game, how would you explain it to him if he's used to, say, 5e or playing, what I'd call like Dragonlance style or Hickman Revolution style?
I think it's
pretty
easy.
I mean, you'd have to present it in a way of maybe even using the Star Trek analogy I gave of, like your character can't be there at every scene, but rather than have you sit at the table with your thumb up your butt, we're going to go ahead and just have you play Steve the fighter who hangs out with them, and you can just sort of be a part of the scene. But I mean, again, I don't personally feel fantasy games lend themselves well to Troupe style play. I think modern games do. I think sci-fi games do. I even think superhero games could. Horror, definitely. But I don't think fantasy, because fantasy is such a focused party of characters. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, really, I'm the rookie on this one.
I run both my AD&D, my OC games Troupe style, so fantasy is fine too.
Yeah, but you also are the most. Love you, Sean.
I'm the most what?
Love you, Sean. Love you.
No, it is very easy, and you bring in a person in who's not used to it. The first off is you're not required to use all your characters. If you come in, you come into my game, the first thing I tell you is you're making 3 characters. Boom. You don't have to play them the order made them. Play the one you want to play, and you have the others ready as a backup. Now, the reason you might have to bring in another character, even if it's not your preferred character, could be because they die or they're removed or they're incapacitated or they're just out of commission for a few weeks for whatever reason. But once they see it in play, it's an easy transition because you're still only playing one character at a time. So I don't see it as too much of a problem to transition for somebody who hasn't used the style. No, Bear had an expression there that was curious.
Then he collapsed.
Bear has a cat.
Okay.
That apparently needs some attention.
So yeah, bringing somebody over, not that big a deal, because they're not required to equally play the characters. They just have them ready, and it's very likely they'll get to play the character they'll want for a sustained period of time.
Yeah, and you can always just if you want to just play one character, you're only comfortable with play the one character. If something comes up where you need to play the other, or if you just feel like using one of the other ones now, just ease them into it, let them do it at their own pace. I think it comes pretty easily after a little while, especially seeing everybody else do it.
Well, I think Cody makes a good point, which I know has been starred for bringing up later. If you're doing, domain play, Troupe play would be perfect for that. I mean, that would be an amazing combination because I think domain play is nonsense. It's not my taste, not my style. It doesn't hold any interest for me. Ooh, the inner workings of running a kingdom. you know. Whereas I know people like, say, Saxius, for example, that would be like, you know, woo, would be high level excitement. That's a bingo, you know, type of stuff. So I can appreciate it, but I think the troop style would work out much better, because then you could have the domain stuff, and then here's what our agents, your other characters, are doing out in the field to benefit, you know, what we're doing. Or even maybe want to make it super spicy, working against us, and your troop characters are actually antagonists to their main characters. That could be interesting. Real test of role playing.
Well, that's just one of many ways you can do it.
Fine. Poop on my idea, Sean, by dismissing it.
I'm agreeing. It's a good idea. I'm not saying, but
this is one of the ways you could do it. I mean, geez, if you had more experience, you know that there was already a way.
If you earned that
Sean,
choice.
I miss you, man. I don't get to see you often enough, brother.
The way I run it for my Night Below game, for instance, which is AD&D, and this is I say this because this is a group of consistent players. My OSE game is a rotation of players, whereas my AD&D game is consistent players. Both games are troop. And the way I run for Night Below is that all of the characters that everybody controls, everybody has 3, sometimes one, some of them have 4 in their folders, but they're all a part of a group that knows each other. They're not an adventuring company per se, but they're all associated. So it's an easy matter of saying, okay, the one character leaves because of training or whatever, and the other character can just come in. And so they already know each other. So contriving how they know the group isn't an issue. So, and they're all adventuring in the same area. So it's, it's easy enough. So there's a small contrivance. Oh, look who happens to be here. Hey, friend. Right. But that's a non-issue because you keep the game going.
Yeah, also, troop play can be domain play in of itself, depending on how large the organization you want to run is. With the game I'm getting ready to start, it's basically a mythical version of like 9th century Britain. And the contrivance of how we're starting it is these are going to be the survivors of a large mercenary army that's all but wiped out. And part of the campaign is get them building this force back up. So there's going to be a huge amount of politicking going on as they start getting their numbers back up. And you basically can run it as like a mobile domain. Or it could be very small. I ran one game where it was basically a thief-based campaign, and they were basically carnies. That was their cover. They had a little traveling show, and they had acrobatics who were burglars. They had the strong man who would fight people, who's their muscle. And there's all manner of things you can do with it. You could like build something off a mages guild where you have like, a couple mages, their apprentices, their bodyguards going off on missions, or building their own new guild. There's all manner of things you can do with it, and you can do it at almost any scale.
Okay. All right, let's get ready to move on into the next segment. I just want to let folks on the Rumble side know that chat is not popping up. I'm using the static key, and for whatever reason, static key does not pop chat up for me to show, but I do see what you guys are typing, so if something interesting appears there, I will announce it to the group. So just 1 second here. Pause that. All right. And with that said, okay, so what are we doing next? Next segment is going to be strategies and tools for running a troop style game. So Bear is going to be right on top of that one. He's got all the strategies and tools in the world. He's sitting on them right now.
Hang on, I have them here somewhere. Where did I put them? Hang on.
Didn't have any super chats for this first segment, but that's fine. Got a couple comments here. Raphael says, this stream should have been named the Ars Magica is awesome and you should try it. Stream. Fair enough. I mean, Ars Magica obviously came up a few times. There are things about Ars Magica I wanted to look into at some point just based on the magic concept. Troop style play, well, I'll talk more about this at the end. It's not for me personally. I'm not against it. It's just not for me, but I'll talk about my how-tos and whys at the end of that one. So if Ars Magica is troop style, that's for me is not a selling point. But for you out there, this is something you want to try. If these guys have kind of gave you that introduction, we got a couple more segments to go. You should check it out. Any thoughts? You guys do any Ars Magica?
No.
Hated it.
Reddit never played it.
It was just like, ew. And then Mage the Ascension came out, and I went, wait, isn't this just Ars Magica, but in the modern age? What the hell?
Well, see, I love Mage.
Well, then maybe you'd love Ars Magica.
It's got an interesting setting, and you could run it with a single game master and just have the players rotate. So, I mean, if you're totally against multiple GMs, you can still make it work.
Yeah, there's a game I've talked about a few times called Cosmic Patrol, and I really, really, really wanted to like that game because it's pulp science fiction. You know, the lizard men in the rubber suits and so forth. Like, it looked really cool. And then it was both a pure improv game. Yes and multiple GMs. So once you're done yes-anding, it goes to, say, Mage's Musings, and he's now yes-anding, and you'd roll some dice in there a little bit. But I was like, yeah, that's not for me. So yeah, I don't want to co-DM with somebody. I'm selfish, and at the same time, I don't want to ruin your world. Maybe it's that pedantic perfectionist in me. But if you've got a game that people are loving, I don't want to come in and be the second fiddle to your world. But that isn't how Doc would run it. Well, not Doc.
And I'd be the one saying that.
In third person, right?
That's way better.
Was it Mydrin says, I've run Troupe-Style before because there were two groups going at the same time, and some players were in both the groups. That's interesting. I've done two groups at the same time, but they're two separate groups. In fact, I got an Earthdawn story at a convention about that. But I've never done it where it's like people were in. I'm in both competing groups. Like, well, you're guaranteed to win. I'm probably reading into that too much, but thoughts?
I would think that would be difficult if they're at odds with each other, because then it comes out, well, which one of my characters do I like better?
Right.
Want to win.
Well, my AD&D game was two splinter groups, and it was just a matter of there wasn't a lot of player crossover, but timeline crossover I had to keep an eye on. And eventually the one group dissolved, and I just continued with the other. But
okay. These are not in order. Hold on a second here. Boop. I got to put these in order. All right. If you want to join, if you think you have some presence and charisma, the ability to educate and entertain, a good AV setup free from noise pollution, and an interest in discussing tabletop RPGs in this format, join the Game Master Insight Discord server. The link to that is in the description. Do stay tuned for future topics. Help us get to know you, and maybe we'll get you on the show to talk about your experiences. If you enjoy this discussion, please like this video, subscribe to all the panelist channels, which you can find in the description as well. All right. In fact, Doc and Sean, I would love if either of you, I have one spot open for this one, specifically for the purposes of troop play. I'd love to have one of you guys on the metagaming discussion.
when is that?
24th of January.
That works for me. I can do that.
Maybe I'll get back to you in a day or two.
Okay, I only have one spot open right now, but I think it would be I think adding in the troop style, because I know there are a couple questions in there for troop style that I removed, but I can add them back in to see how that affects in terms of metagaming. If it becomes good, bad, otherwise. With that said, we are going to move on.
Looks like you got Doc, and I'll put me on as a possible backup just in case, but I will double check.
That's perfect. Oftentimes I need backups because somebody just can't show up, health reasons or whatever. So yeah, that'd be great.
And I have many hostile things to say about metagaming.
Well, we'll find out. Well, somebody who's in chat right now is going to be on that episode as well. I would like somebody who's pro metagaming, somebody who's anti metagaming, and somebody who's like, but yeah, cool.
Never metagame I didn't like.
Good shot.
Yep, there you go. Okay, let's get to our segment 2 here. I'm going to start with Sean on this one, and this segment is about strategies and tools for running a troop-style campaign. Now, the interesting thing for this is a lot of these questions lead into the whole, what do you do with multiple game masters keeping things on track? So we'll have to work around that a little bit, because I think everybody agreed, nah, we don't like that idea. But in your troop-style campaigns, what specific strategies or methods do you rely on when organizing sessions, rotating roles, and keeping everyone invested and on track? And why do you believe those strategies work?
I don't got no strategies. I just run my game. Who the players choose is their business. I just run the game. Now, in terms of like the calendar, obviously I'll keep the calendar, but I don't do anything extra to run troop style than I do for a normal game. So The worst thing is possibly just kind of policing metagaming, but even that is a very minimal issue.
I've got so many questions right now, but I would usurp the show. Do you guys have any questions for that? Otherwise, I might have a follow-up here.
Well, I mean, I agree with Sean. Over planning is the death of a good game, I find. So, no techniques, no tricks. Just see what happens when the rubber meets the road.
All right, so here's my problem, and maybe I'm visualizing this wrong. If you miss 3 sessions, generally speaking, it's a general rule of thumb, in a year of my game, you're out.
In a year?
Yes, in a year.
Wow.
And I ran weekly. Now, there are ways around that. You know, you got like a vacation time coming up. You know, it's in May, and you tell me in February. I will work around that. No big deal. But just not showing up, constantly being sick, grandma's in the hospital, whatever. Look, go take care of your life. Don't worry about a game. Like so. A troop style thing.
Game protocol question as opposed to troop style specific.
Well, no, that's going to get to the troop thing. The troop thing for me, where you're like, it doesn't. You know, we don't worry about the scheduling. We don't worry about what characters they're playing. That would drive me, as even a player, even if I was a player in that game, that would drive me batshit crazy.
Well, okay. Well, I'll lay it out for you. The 2 games are on my OSE game, which is almost West Marches styles, Keep on the Borderland. I simply set the day that I'm playing and tell the regulars, okay, we're playing this day, and then if they can make it, they make it. They can't, they can't. It's a rotating cast. The AD&D group, which is a consistent group, we schedule it at the end of our session. We always look and say, okay, when's everybody free, and then we lock the day that everybody agrees on. And if somebody doesn't make it, then they don't make it. They're not there for that day, and it only happens once in a while. So, but that's a campaign scheduling. It has nothing to do with the troop style.
Okay,
right?
but I mean, that's still that is organizing a session, right?
Right.
Okay,
so not as troop style strategy. That's what I'm saying. It's not as related to the topic as it is overall just keeping the campaign going. I have, once we've locked a game, we proceed with 3 players. That's it. You know, if you don't show up, you don't show up. In my OSE game, it doesn't matter if you don't show up unless we're continuing from a previous session, in which case you'll get NPC'd. If you're in the middle of a dungeon, then I'm not going to, unless I can find a really logical way of doing it, excuse your character. But most of the times with the OSE game, they're just coming fresh. Like they complete every excursion in a single session. So whoever shows up. It doesn't matter. For my ongoing narrative with Night Below, the group is reliable. So the one guy who bows out the most, he's the one with health issues. So we're accommodating, but even he's pretty reliable. So it doesn't. Yeah, the troop style doesn't affect that. It's just a matter of the reliable players.
Yeah, I'd say it's a fully separate issue.
Yeah. And I don't care who they choose to play when they come to the table. The only time I'll police it is, nope, that character's out of commission for this amount of time. You can't use it. That's about the only time. Otherwise, no, if you need to swap out, you swap out. It's your business. I'll just run the game with whoever's there and whatever they're playing.
Yeah, no. I'm glad. So this is why I'm glad this is a really good learning experience or understanding. I just personally, I could not be in a game like that. Like I certainly wouldn't run one like that. But that also shows how the hobby has room for people who have many different play styles. As long as people aren't forcing their play style on you, there are many, many, many different ways to play.
Also, if you're very freeform about which character is involved, and as long as you have enough people to run the game, it can actually free it up a little bit. So you're not so dependent on specific characters being there all the time.
Right.
You can kind of work around that. I
definitely don't plan a campaign around the specific character. That'll go south real fast.
Right.
The sort of exception in my Night Below game is that one of the characters playing a paladin has been assigned to a certain mission. So that character is limited in his movements because that's his mission. But the other characters are with him because they're his friends. They're not necessarily, they haven't been assigned by the church to do it. So when he swaps out the character stays in that thing doing his business while if he wants to play somebody else, that's still fine. But he just can't take that character because it's a paladin. He's committed to the cause. He can't take that character and say, you know what, I'm going to go investigate this other thing 1,000 miles away. He's got to stay in that area. So that's, there's that. That's a very specific to the situation, though.
Okay. All right, let me roll on over to Bear. I'm going to do you last each time just because you didn't get the questions up front.
No doing.
He gets the sloppy thirds.
You're getting
no
dude.
doing Bear tonight, sir.
Well, you're getting dude.
I'm getting done. I'm getting dead.
So Doc, and just so the folks out there, it's because Bear filled a slot the last second here, so he didn't get to see the question beforehand. So I don't want to blindside him with this. Give him a little time to think about the question. So Doc, in your troop style campaigns, what specific strategies or methods do you rely on when organizing sessions, rotating roles, and keeping everyone invested and on track? And I'm going to probably dive into that part a little bit more. And why do you believe those strategies work?
Okay, well, the main thing is just to have everybody like invested in the characters they're using, and to start using characters as they're invested in them. Otherwise, except as needed, because somebody's hurt, somebody's dead, or doing whatever, and just get people comfortable with the characters, have them develop the characters, and not like arbitrarily force certain ones unless they're comfortable with it or it's necessary. Also, my games are built around a lot of NPCs, so it's very important to have those NPCs like have personalities. I have a whole little rigmarole about them. I have like a single sentence physical description. I've got 1 or 2 personality traits, 2 facts and a secret on everyone, and so it's very easy to fill out when you have that format. You can put it on an index card. You can just fit it on an index card, and you just go through these, and that's the only real major preparation. I like to kind of freeform the games as much as possible. I don't like to plan a lot of stuff out. I might have an encounter I want to throw in, or a vague idea of something that's going to happen. But the more plans you make, the more the players are going to screw them up. So I'm of the opinion you should just kind of just roll with it.
Okay. I guess this is the part.
I think it's very much like other games. I think it sounds different, but I think True Play really just kind of melds with regular gameplay once you get. It's just a slightly different setup.
When you defined troop play earlier, you focused more on the hirelings and the mercenaries and so forth, which is something that in my experience I hadn't heard of. I'd heard of like what Sean's been talking about, whether it's the co-DMing or it's the having multiple characters either at one time
characters is a big part of what I do too.
Swapping them through. So we're talking about. I want to focus on the being invested. For me personally, I can't be invested in 3 characters. Just can't. Like, it's not going to happen. I'm going to find the one that I like the most. If I have to do a funnel, say it's DCC and I have to do a funnel, well, obviously the one that lives is one I would use, right? But let's say 3 or 4 of them live. I'm going to pick the one I like. The other ones are trash. And maybe it's because, I'll use Bear's term, I'm a dirty story gamer. I'm a role player. I'm an actor. Whatever you want to call, however you want to insult it. But I get into the headspace of my character, and that's the character I want to play. Everything else, and that includes my interactions with other characters. I will lose investment in the character, in the game, in so much. If Sean comes in this way, this time he's a human fighter. Next time he's a female elven cleric, and then the time after that's like, no, stop it! You're breaking my brain. I can't do this. Maybe that's a limitation on my part. I don't know. But before you follow up with that, let me I got a super chat Rumble rant over there on $20 one. I can't put it up on the screen. Sorry, folks, but it says, I'm late again. I'm furiously cleaning my house and all the leftover holiday detritus while prepping for my game tomorrow morning at the same time. Pour that GM genius right into my ear holes, gents. Well, they are doing that. They are pouring that genius. Thank you for the $20. And Sean, you had some genius that you wanted to pour into his ear hole right now.
Well, I was just about to say that situation where somebody is swapping out a character every session and just varying it up, well, possible, doesn't usually happen. Most players are going to remain consistent. They're going to play the character they want to play. They'll swap out when they need to, not just on a whim, right?
Yeah, that's been my experience. People usually have a favorite that they favor, and as needed, they'll do other characters. For the most
So
part.
how do you keep the other characters, we'll say the backup characters, so to speak, how do you keep them ready to go? If I'm playing the same character and I get to like level 8, and my backup character's level 2, how do you keep them ready to go?
Well, I play AD&D and OSC, and level disparity isn't such a big deal. In those systems, it's not a huge deal at all. We've got my AD&D, we've got like a 9th level thief, we've got 7th level paladins, and one guy's brought in a 1st level Kensai, and he's pulling his weight, he's doing his work, right? It's no different than having a whole army of 0 levels with your 10th level guy. They will always serve a purpose, and they can do their part. So the problem will come when you get a player who's used to this idea that everybody's got to be perfectly equal. And it's like, well, if he's 9th level, why can't I be 9th level? Well, role play, asshole. Play the rookie. Play the rookie with the experienced people. You will earn your stripes, right?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Bear, let me ask you the question. In your non-existent troop-style campaigns, what specific strategies or methods, what would you rely on when organizing sessions, rotating roles, and keeping, here's the big one, because I think you and I will have some differences, but generally agree on this, keeping everyone invested and on track. And why do you think the strategies would work?
Well, my way of running games keeps people invested. Because I make it about their characters. So there's 2 ways to look at it, right? There's the plot of the game or the adventure or whatever you're on, and then there's the characters, right? Depending on which one you focus on will determine things. A lot of GMs focus on the adventure, and then the players just kind of be a part of that, and they do what their characters do and what have you. I flip it. I'm like, the adventure's there, but I'm more interested in how your characters are interacting with the world and with the adventure and with the plot and with the story. That's why I refer to myself sometimes as a soap opera game narrator. So I don't see any of that changing for a troop style type of game. I would say basically, okay, so you're Ensign Steve right now. Well, let's take a look at Ensign Steve and what Ensign Steve's. I'm going to focus on what makes Ensign Steve be part of this scene or what makes Ensign Steve be on this, So they're not just plywood. They're actually living in the moment and playing their characters. I demand a high level of role playing from my players. I don't request it. I demand it. I'll accept whatever they can bring to the table so long as they show me they're trying. That's what matters most to me.
And I think that distinction that you made there right at the end is so important because, I get accused a lot of times for various reasons of being hyper-focused and it has to be this one perfect way. It's like, no, if you're trying, that's good enough. It's the people who don't try or obstinate, like, I don't do that. Those are the ones I throw out of the game. like if you're trying, you don't have to be good. You just have to try. So I agree with that completely. So, all right, you're talking about Ensign Steve. We are about to go on that away mission.
Sure.
And I love playing my lieutenant helmsman, and I don't want to play the stupid red shirt.
So then you shouldn't be in the campaign because we had an agreement that we were doing troop style play. So if you're going to take a moment, when we're suddenly doing this and you go, I don't want to do the troop style play. Well, I don't want you to be in the game anymore. And it's as simple as that.
No. So I think right there, there's a tool right there that we could talk about, which is, should this be brought up during session 0 or pre-planning of the game and so forth?
Oh yeah. Everybody's got to be on board.
Play on your players like in the middle of a campaign. And by the way, we're doing this now. Like no. It has to be in the batter before you bake the cake. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so I'll ask the question again. How would you explain that in general terms without, a whole list of session 0 stuff here? How would you explain that to the players and what the intent of that is?
Hey guys, we're doing a campaign that uses troop style play. What's troop style play? You're going to have backup characters or lower decks characters for this adventure, so that way when your primary character wouldn't make sense in a scene, instead of having you sit there stacking dice and distracting everybody or playing on your phone, we're going to have a backup character that you bring along who fits the scene, and then you're going to play them for that scene.
Is that going to limit my my primary character's advancement?
Yes, absolutely. Get the fuck out of my game. If you play with me and you're worried about advancement, you are not paying attention.
The funny thing is, I agree with Bear on this one, but I'm using the arguments that are out there. He hasn't sold me on the troop style play, but I get it. I absolutely get it in the Star Trek environment way more than I do in the D&D environment, even though I've seen it in the D&D environment way more than I've seen it anywhere else.
And that's why I said, for me, I don't think I would ever use it in a fantasy setting. I would use it in a superhero setting. I would use it in a sci-fi setting. I'd use it in a horror setting for sure.
Okay.
Well, I think a big key to it is also selling the players on the group.
There's a $20 super chat. You need to shh for a minute.
I want to let him go. All right, so for $20, thank you, Law Dog, very much for the $20. He says, I just want to say this first show of the new year is awesome. All three panelists are extremely creative people and are super fun to hear their insights and thoughts on running/playing. I'm going to add one more onto there, and that's the fact that I really like the fact that they have a little bit different perspective, each one, and they're putting out more examples as I'm trying to counter them, not just with my style, but with things that I've seen, plus my style. They've already got, hey, some prep for that, whether it's as simple as get out of my game or hold on, let's talk about it there are many different avenues that folks can use to make this successful or just determine that they don't want to do it. All right, Doc, go. Thanks again, Law Dog, for the $20. Really do appreciate that. By the way, folks, I think we're at $40 now. We have to make $100 for the giveaway. Same as it's always been. But go ahead, Doc, finish your thought up there.
Well, I think a big part of selling it is that you need to get the players to see the group itself as a sort of character. They have to be invested in the organization. They have to want it to succeed. They have to feel like they're a part of it, that this is a part of a community that they're part of, that they're trying to advance the group. And I think if you make that sale to the players, for instance, Star Trek would work very well because you're part of a ship crew. But whatever kind of organization, where it's like some kind of thieves guild or a bunch of religious crusaders, as long as you sell the group to the players, I think they fall very naturally into the whole thing.
Okay. I was thinking of some games. Do you think that there's a game out there that would just really suck for Troupe-Style? I mean, I can name one right now, but we'll see you guys. That would just nope, Troupe-Style just would not work.
I think Earthdawn would suck. Well, Earthdawn would just suck for all styles. So let's just.
You went a bridge too far there, buddy. You went a bridge
too
far.
Bye, everybody.
But no, you are right. Earthdawn would suck for Troupe-Style play once you get to the mid circles because of group patterns. Because you literally you bind yourself to the other players in your group to get even more power. There's a strength and a weakness to. Oops, we got another super chat in here. Mondohan, 1999. Thank you very much, Mondohan. Do appreciate that. This is great. Knocking out of the park tonight. Again, it's the panelists. It's not me. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I think there are some games. Are there any games that you guys can think of that just it would? I mean, not that you could never do it. Just it might be a little bit more difficult.
I think things that with lower player counts, like if you're playing like Blade Runner or Top Secret, something where you want smaller groups, that would be really hard to make it work.
Okay.
But I could see that working because I think back to the old Victory Games James Bond 007 game where you had agent something and then 00 was the three levels of character, right? So you could absolutely have a main player playing at 00 and then have the other players, having other ranks of agent or agents from other organizations that they run in and team up with, like a Felix Leiter or something like that. So that would work in Top Secret as well. I think the first one you said was
Blade Runner was the first one about.
Sorry?
Blade Runner was the first one.
Blade Runner absolutely would work in Blade Runner because if you the big problem with the Blade Runner game, absolutely from the word go, is that it's a team of Blade Runners. That's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. There are no teams of Blade Runners. You're a Blade Runner, it's a one guy job. So who could the other players be? If it's not their Blade Runner on the case, they could be other cops. They could be street informants. They could be replicants. Ooh, that could be interesting.
Would that run into the Jedi problem, though, where it's like, oh, look, we've got the Jedi or Doctor Who. We got Doctor, but now everybody else is just a schmuck hanging around him?
Well, when I ran Doctor Who back in the 80s, you didn't get to play the Doctor. You got to play the companions.
You're the
companions,
companions,
yeah.
Well, that was the FASA version, yeah.
Yeah, but that was the way it was done. Made more sense. I really want to play a Time Lord. Here's a notepad and a paper. Go write your fanfic.
Well, it's funny because a lot of things are coming up today, even from you guys talking about Troupe-Style play. Like one of the things that I've argued with people about with regard to games. And I don't want to call him out if I got the wrong person, but I think somebody in chat made a comment about this, like, I have to have my XP. And I'm like, dude, you could tell me that you're running your AD&D second edition game and everybody's 7th level and you're not going to improve. Like, I have so many monsters in the monster manual. I have so much campaign setting that I can do. I never need you guys to level up. It's like Traveler, right? You can improve your ship. You can improve your armor. You can improve, you can improve your weapons and so forth. You get contacts. You might get a domain, whatever. There's so many other things you can do, but you're not going to level up. I don't need to level up. Like, I really don't.
Yeah, that's how all my games are. You basically have a static character. I mean,
Okay.
you can over time slowly increase like the training skills, but the downtime characters would actually have an advantage there over the characters who are active. So you basically, I like my character creation system is based very heavily on the Traveler system. It's like a modified version of that. You make your character, and that's your character.
Interesting. All right.
Improvements come from new gear, learning things and things like that. Yeah, I'm not a big class and level person for the most part, so that's never really an issue in the games I run it in.
I don't think you would also necessarily design your game around troop style. It's just another tool in the kit for running a game. It's not like, we're gonna focus on the troop style, and I mean, you could, but I don't think that would necessarily lead to a better game. I like having the option. I like having the like I said, it's in the toolkit, so players can have multiple characters. We can swap out quickly if need be, and it doesn't disrupt an overall flow. But I wouldn't necessarily run to a game because somebody's running troop style. You know what I mean?
So how have you guys, because you've talked about it a little bit, but I want to get a little bit more specific in this. How have you guys blended troop style gaming with the more traditional approaches in the same campaign?
Well, we said it before. I mean, most characters will just tend to stick to the one character that they like, and that's fine. I don't force anything unless it has to be done. So players are going to play the way they want to play. That's that's on them. I simply run my game, so it really doesn't come up until it needs to. But it's not. Yeah, it's not a big wedge in the game. It's just sort of, no, here's this is an option players have. Let's run with it, right?
Yeah, just let it happen organically. It's generally run pretty smoothly.
I've never done it, so I'm gonna grab a drink while these guys talk about things I've never done.
It's
college all over again.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped running traditional games years ago when I decided to go open world sandbox style as well. I'll have a framework, but the players are completely in the driver's seat, and except when they've maneuvered themselves into a position where they're now on a path and there's no getting off that path, which does happen from time to time, and them running multiple characters is just a part of that. That's why I said earlier, it's like who they choose to bring in at a given session, that's up to them. I'll just run the session.
Yeah, that's another thing that works well in this setting is where you let them do what they want. You see what they get their teeth in, and then you can start prepping a little more as needed as those situations come up, and then you let it go free form for a while. I mean, it's very good for that, because also it's very easy to just introduce ideas to if you have like somebody who's acting as an agent for the organization, they can just these are the leads we got. These are the jobs we've been offered, as opposed to just having to contrive them hearing things and somebody meet me behind the tavern at midnight stuff, which can get old after a while.
If you're in an ongoing campaign, then information is going to be free flowing. Events are already in motion. My OSE campaign, which is Keep on the Borderlands, is 40 sessions in now. There are events that are in place, so I don't even have to prep anything anymore. There's so much going on. The players come to the table and they're already launching into a discussion about what they want to tackle. I just show up and say, "Oh, they're doing that. Let's do it."
I almost have the opposite technique. I like to end sessions on cliffhangers, knowing what your decision is going into the next session, and then I prepare for that pretty specifically. I allow for a bunch of flexibility. I'm not as railroady as, say, my other co-host.
But that can happen. that can happen too, even in an open world game where we don't finish in the session. They've left off in a dungeon. Great, that's even less prep for me because they're
Right.
already on the path. But for the most part, yeah, when you've got an ongoing game, even Troupe style, when everybody's rotating through characters, it's the setting that's doing all the heavy lifting. Once you got the momentum. And yeah, like I said, players will show up and they're looking at the map to say, okay, we're going to the watchtower today. We're going to clear that out. And it's like, all right, I've already got the materials. They're already laid out. I can just run with it.
Yeah, we're getting a bunch of $20 super chats in today, so I got to interrupt again. Thank you very much for all the super chats. You guys are awesome. And yeah, I know there's a smaller one in there. We'll get to that at the end. A little dinky. No, I'm kidding. So Agile Monk, thank you very much for the $19.99. This is just to help with the event, and thanks, Matt, Matt's Bears and others. Matt as Bear. Did you mean Mage's Musing and Bear? I don't know. Thanks, Matt AS Bear. And other
And just typed and because he was so excited.
Matt and Bear. Who's Matt?
Max. It's a typo of your name, man.
See, you know what? I'm not good. Don't ever have me do cryptography.
So I need to ask this as an honest question. Does your education system not teach context clues when you're in primary school?
I'm just too much of a literalist.
That's fair. You are a pedant.
All right. Thanks, Max and Bear and others. Your hobby contributions are appreciated. Being in this it's jumping up, and industry for 50 years, I appreciate the dialogue. Yeah, this is a really good dialogue today. I do appreciate that. And again, it's about the panelists, not about me, because I'm just asking dumb questions and they're giving good answers. So there we go. But thank you for the $19.99. And yeah, he is correct. Like sometimes context when it comes to written text can elude me. Oops, wrong button. Here we go. Max did go to a Lutheran school. Yeah, I don't know what that has to do with anything, but okay.
Context is not good in religious schools. That's true.
I went to a very conservative Lutheran school too. So
conservative in context. Ooh, buddy, this is getting deeper and deeper.
He's going to roast in hell for all the role-playing games he played.
True story. When I went, Satanic Panic was alive and well in the 80s when I went to Lutheran school, and you got extra Bible verses to memorize. If you talked about Dungeons and Dragons, Doctor Who, Star Trek didn't get you in trouble, but if you talked about anything like that, and that's why it blew my mind with my 6th grade temporary teacher, because I think my primary teacher went on a sabbatical or something, came in and said, I should read Lord of the Rings. Well, The Hobbit specifically then. And it blew my mind. I was like, no! Anywho, let's get back on track here. Thank you again for the $19.99. And yes, this panel is awesome tonight. So are there any things that you guys do, specific house rules or mechanical tweaks that you make to the game that you think help make running a Troupe style game a little more efficient, a little easier, a little more understandable for folks?
I mean, I run house rules. I'm just trying to think how they pertain to Troupe. I don't think anything really directly affects the Troupe style play.
I mean, right off the bat, one of you said you have somebody make 3 characters. I mean, that's kind of a house rule.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's a house rule. It's more just a cushion and a safety net, so you're not twiddling your thumbs if you die mid-game.
That's fair. And when I do Dungeons and Dragons, I do the same. I don't do 3. I say 2. I always have 2 characters because when somebody dies, I said when somebody dies, have something ready. But it isn't for the purposes of Troupe play. And I will squash a player that keeps trying to burn through characters. I'm bored of this one, I'm going to go on to the next one. I'm bored of this, I'm going to go on to the next one. I'm bored of this. No, stop that. Get out.
Yeah, I'd say the only real thing I do is just I let the players know beforehand, this is kind of the parameters of the organization. So build something that's going to fit in this.
Yeah, perfect. Absolutely.
Have somebody that makes sense. Why is he here?
I'm an agent of chaos. I like it when people create, characters who aren't necessarily going to gel, but with the caveat that, but the consequences are on you, right? And you want to make an assassin to join this group with a paladin and 2 rangers and lawful good monk. Well, good luck if they suss you out. You don't have the right to keep your character, but we did have that. We had an assassin infiltrate the group, stole an item from them, and departed, and that's great. That's a lot of fun. That's interesting.
Yeah, but that was a guest shot, wasn't it?
It was a guest character, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it's as I tell everyone, all the players, and I've told all of you guys, the world will react to you. Your choices will have impact. It's not a fucking game where everybody's there going, yes, you're the greatest person ever, Mary Sue. I'm so glad you came along to tell us how to live our lives. They will mess with you if you mess with them, if you cause trouble. And even if you don't cause trouble. So it doesn't matter what kind of character you're playing. It doesn't matter what troop level you're playing. If your character goes around acting like a moron, you reap what you sow, baby. That's just the way it's going to be.
He's not kidding either. He rips people in half. He's vicious.
Well, the opposite is true too. You take a character with a super high charisma and you're going around being everybody's friend. Well, you're still going to attract the wrong kind of attention.
Yeah, and you are going to make enemies by being friends with other people. Their enemies are going to become your enemies. You know.
Oh, somebody's been on the internet.
That's the fun of it. That's the story.
Like they said in Dune, a popular man draws the wrath of the powerful.
Yes, but also as they said in Star Trek, in one of the Chris Claremont, one of the comics, he had a great one where he said a man is judged not only by the loyalty of his allies, but the quality of his enemies.
Okay.
Thank you for attending my TED Talk. Good night.
Well, I'm trying not to be the one that jumps in. I'm trying to control myself in this new format to not jump in constantly. So you guys are for it. I'm just here to ask dumb questions.
I'm waiting for us to all nod in sync.
1, 2, 3. No.
Close.
We'll work on it.
It was a little Three Stooges-y.
Oh.
All right. Any final comments you guys have about strategies or methods and so forth for organizing and getting troop style play to work?
I think if you set it up at the front, you make sure the players know what's going on, you have their buy-in from all of them, and they're willing to try it. And you also make it clear that your secondary characters have just as much a chance of dying as your primary character. It'll be an interesting thing to see. And if you almost take the DCC funnel idea, it could be fun to see, like, session 1 versus session 10. Who are the main characters now? That could be interesting.
Well, that's one reason I love OSC is, basically levels 1 to 3 are that funnel. And now when I started my OSC campaign, it was interesting who started and now who's still playing and what characters they have, and it's a completely different makeup. We've had so many guest players, and that's half the fun too, just seeing where it goes. I couldn't have predicted it, and Troop Style lends to that.
Okay. All right, well, let's prepare to go into the next segment, which is managing campaigns and world building in troop style play. We'll see where those questions get us. Before then, I got some super chats to read. Thanks again for everybody who super chatted in. Really do appreciate that. Law Dog says, hey, can we get Doc's YouTube channel? His drive-throughs in the show notes, but not his YouTube channel.
I posted that for him.
So I saw it. So that's intentional, Law Dog. Instead of instead of filling out people's every links, because I had somebody do that, sent me like 8 links. I was like, no. So the rule of thumb now is I'm going to take whatever the person wants advertised the most, whether a YouTube channel or a drive-through RPG or a link. Hey, somebody gave me a link tree. That's fine, whatever. I'm going with that. So that was kind of intentional. But as Doc did put his YouTube channel in chat there. So hopefully you got that. Thank you very much for the $5. Immortal Rising Comic Book says, slow leveling is more fun for me. Me as well, if I know it's supposed to be a long-term campaign. And I love long-term campaigns. If I know that for the next 6 to 10 years of my life, there's the possibility that I'm going to be showing up once a week to play this character at this table, I'm happy. And if that character dies, I play another one, but the world is still moving forward, whether it's sandbox or more story, whatever, as long as I feel like it's a living part of the world, I am in. Oh, did I level? Awesome. Did I not level? Okay, whatever. Like I trust the game master to build the sessions or the adventures or the shenanigans, whatever, around the level of our party. Or we're smart enough to go, nope, and out of that one. So, did you guys have any comments?
No, I agree. It's, and you'll find with a longer term campaign, even with a class and level system, players will kind of sort of sit back and not worry about it as much. If they're engaged with the scenario, then they're not going to be as focused. You will still get some people looking to their level, but it won't be as important. It won't be, oh, I got to level up by the next session kind of thing. It's not like that is in 5th ed where, you know, you have to rapidly advance, and because your campaign is meant to last a year and a half and then you're done, as opposed to an indefinite campaign, more suited to the old school.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the indefinite part, because even if you do complete, we'll call it the primary. I don't know. The way my timelines work, you know, I'm a little less sandboxy than you, but I'm also not just like, this is, you are on the campaign to defeat the spider goddess or some crap like that. You know, there are a lot of things that are going on in the world, and I do that intentionally. I think it's because I moved around the world so much, and things would stop, people would come in, people would leave. You know, military, right? Where it's like, if the campaign kept going, it kept going. You beat this thing, but then there are other things to continue on in the world, or maybe the campaign just ends there, or people are just bored and they want to play a different game. You know, luckily that didn't happen to me when I was running, but we had some games I was playing in where that happened, you know.
Yeah, and you can also put in long breaks. Like sometimes after like a big major mission ends, okay, we're 3 or 4 years are going to pass. What are you doing in the meantime? Okay, this is where you guys are now when you get back together. After you take a little break from the game,
Sure.
maybe play something else. You can always mix things up that way.
Yeah, kind of like the War of the Lance, right? I mean, the companions, before they actually went on the whole thing for the War of the Lance, if you've read Dragonlance, they had a 5-year separation.
Yeah, and Pendragon is like set up that way. You're basically meant to do like one thing a year. That's another game I want to run at some point in the relatively near future, because I've finally got that, so I'm like getting very into that idea. But you know, you probably do one significant thing a year, and then you go off, and then it's summertime again. You come out of your like winter hovel in your castle, and you go do something else, and you can do advancing, and you can even do like generational play that way, where you have the descendants of your characters.
Are we playing Pendragon all of a sudden? Jeez.
So that's what he said. Yeah.
I do the real-time passage in my my AD&D game, and what I'll do is, if it's not possible to do it, you know, as the adventure is progressing, I'll just bank the time. And usually at the end of an adventure, there's probably about 3 or 4 months banked up. And then so when the adventure concludes, they get their XP, they go into downtime. That's when that 4 months passes, right?
Cool. Albert Not a Retro says cliffhangers are always good. Now he put a correction down here that I'm going to try to word in here. I put saying before the horde. So, oops, there we go. A horde, a cave-in. Is this the end for our heroes? Find out next week. RPG, same time, same RPG channel. There you go. Little Batman reference for folks out there. Actually, I like the cliffhanger, not so much for the excitement factor of it, although that's a double whammy. If you get both the excitement, you're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Well, we'll find out next week. You know, that's just an added bonus. What I do personally is I like to know what is like, make this very simple. This is overly simplistic, but are you guys going to go left? Or are you going to go right? We're going to go left. All right, we're stopping the adventure here. And then that helps me plan a little bit more to the left. Could I wing it? Yep. Do I want to wing it? Maybe. But I like to plan things out a little bit more than that, because throughout the week I can think about, oh, I didn't even think about that. And if I had just been doing it on the fly, I might not have had that exciting thing that I could have, secret room that I didn't think about, or maybe a different monster than what's either in the module or what I had originally planned, whatever, right? So I like having the ability to plan. And a great game where this works perfectly, even though the book says do it opposite of this, is Mutant Gen Lab Alpha. Because what they do in Mutant Gen Lab Alpha is you're basically playing a terrorist organization trying to free yourself. Okay, you're freedom fighters, but you're acting like terrorists. And there are multiple different missions that different groups go on, one of which you play out. But as players, you kind of metagame this. It's intentionally built into the game. You determine what every little faction, what every cell is doing, but you role play one of them. So what I do is we do the all the, and we'll call it the NPC ones, and then next week is yours. And so they actually get to, so we stop there, we role play that next round, and they already know what they're doing or what the intent is. Can they tweak it a little bit? Yes, but they can't in midweek say, we all decided we don't want to do that anymore. We're going to go do something else. Like, no, you literally started stepping forward on this. So no, but if you want to tweak it once you start, that's fine. You role play how you want to role play. So I like a little more container, a little more, not the word control, a little more formatting to the sessions than pure sandbox. That's again, as both a player and as a game master. Any thoughts, guys? Or?
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, I like to have some direction in it. I mean, I'll basically let them do whatever they want, but I mean, it is nice to have some conception of what's happening.
Right.
I tend not to add, like if they're in a dungeon, then if we lead off in the dungeon, I'm not going to necessarily add to it or change things around. I might simply adapt based on what they've already encountered or what they've interacted with, right? And so if some monsters got away and then they have time to plan, that gives me time to figure out what they would do. But I'm not going to say, I'm going to put a secret door here or a new treasure. That would already have been predetermined.
I got you. Again, I was oversimplifying, but yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. All right, let's move on to the next one. Thank you, by the way, Albert, for both those super chats for the $7. Appreciate it. We're at $80. Actually, we have broken the $100 mark, so that means once this live stream portion is over, the public that will go to video portion is over, we will have a giveaway in what we used to call segment 5. Now I'm just kind of calling the rando portion of the stream. So, coming here, did TMNT books ever get done? Not quite yet. I don't know exactly what the status of them is. Sean was overseas and Kevin was getting through the holidays, working on a lot of stuff. But we're looking at first quarter this year is my understanding. If I hear anything differently, I will let people know. But that's my understanding. I honestly have not talked to Kevin and Sean. Because again, Sean was out of the country and Kevin's been doing everything by himself, so I didn't want to bother him. But there we go. And Thruxus says, new layout looks great. Appreciate that. Little issue with that, though. This is StreamYard, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be using StreamYard because of its billing situation. However, I just came across the fact that the billing situation might not be as bad as people made it out to be, including StreamYard itself, and I may be staying with StreamYard. So we'll find out, even though I paid for Restream. And the Sunday streams are going to be on Restream for the foreseeable future. So I'm doing StreamYard for Friday and Restream for Sunday so that I can test it out. But if I can stay on StreamYard, you're going to keep getting this layout the entire time. I like it as well, though I might square me instead of rectangle me. But
So
thank you very much. What's that?
So you don't have to worry about the asymmetrical shellfish.
No, it's just I feel so either that or I'm going to make my box a little bigger because I don't like being in the middle. I'm supposed to be toward the top, I mean, Mage's Musing and Bear are so you're leaning. If you weren't leaning, you would be saying you guys are all framed like perfectly. Me, I'm like down because I lean forward. And, I need to be up.
I tend to lean forward, but then I become self-conscious that my head's bigger than everybody else.
It's clear Max is a halfling. I mean,
it's $100. They need to raise $100 for the draw tonight. Where are we at, Max?
Oh, we're past. We made it because we got 82 on YouTube and 20 on Rumble, so we made it.
Nice.
So we made it. It doesn't mean you have to stop super chat. Just means that we'll have a $25 giveaway. Remember, everybody who's a member or a subscriber on the Rumble site, basically paying backer, and everybody who super chatted, Rumble ranted, will be added to the giveaway. So with that, I've got one more super chat to hit here, and then we're going to bounce into our next segment. Gold Dragon fought Red Dragon, and Chuck Norris won. I haven't heard a Chuck Norris joke in like 5 years, but there you go. There you go. Thank you. Are those still a thing?
Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the planet down.
There we go. We'll have an entire stream for Chuck Norris jokes sometime in the future. All right. Boom. As many of you know, the charity we support is the Wounded Warrior Project, a national nonpartisan organization whose mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors. Please refer to the video's description for the link to where you can make your hopefully tax-deductible donation. Also, if you're looking for a charity, there's a team link. I think it's in the description. I'll have to check later, but there might be a team link there. You can join the team and have your own charity drive giveaway, but we pool all our assets together and make life better for everybody if you want to join the team. And of course, if you enjoyed this discussion, please like this video and subscribe to all of the panelist channels, which you can find in the description. Probably shouldn't say channels there. I should say content. Yeah. All right, let's move on to our segment 3. We'll go back to starting with Doc on this one. This is going to be about managing campaign world building in Troupe-Style play. So, what techniques do you use to maintain cohesive plot threads and or consistent world building when multiple participants share in shaping the campaign environment?
Well, I pretty much let them do whatever they want with the understanding that I'm going to kill stupid people. But the main thing for me is running these big organizations that I like to do is a little bit of paperwork. You got to keep track of kind of what their expenses are, what they're spending, who wants to kill them at any given time. So there's a bit of paperwork there, but I like to keep the actual games just basically down to an outline because I tend to have very difficult, problematic people I want to murder in my games. So.
Do tell. So when you say problem, are you talking about the player characters?
Well, players in general, they're scum.
You and he be on the same stream because he is notorious for openly stating that players are the worst thing to happen to role-playing games.
The riddle of dice. What is best in a game master? To TPK the party, to tear their sheets before them, and to hear the lamentations of the players.
It's funny you say that, and I'm not trying to derail, but I have a standing rule in my games, my table games, obviously, is that your character doesn't belong to you, it belongs to me. So when your character dies, I get your character sheet. Now, I don't care if you make photocopies of it or whatever. I think it's weird to play a character that died in somebody else's game, but whatever. But I get your character sheet. I had somebody flat out just refuse. So when he refused and so forth, I ended up getting a hold of his character sheet. I convinced him to give it to me, and I went right in front of him. He freaked the hell out. And I'm like, dude, I told you, like, this character does not belong to you. It belongs to me. And yes, I will use it to something else. That's part of one of the things, we talk about at the beginning of the game. This isn't something I snuck up on you. And I don't say it that way. I just remind people that, hey, when your characters die, I will need your character sheets. So if you want to make any edits or whatever to it, or you want to say the game master's bad, just write that on your own version of it. But I want your character sheet when your character dies. And he's like, nope, you don't get it. So I ripped it up right in front of him when I got it.
My first dungeon master, when I first started playing D&D in his bedroom, had a corkboard wall where he hung up the character sheets of everybody he'd killed.
Trophies.
Well, I won't. I'm going to derail if I keep talking. So we'll move on here. What was the question again? So what techniques do you use to maintain cohesive plot threads, consistent world building? So, but you don't do this. A lot of these are going to be focusing on multiple game masters. But how much control do your players have of your setting?
They have control over their characters.
How much influence can they have on the world?
Well, I mean, that depends on the situation. They can theoretically guide the direction of a kingdom or have no impact. They're just laying low and just doing their own little adventure. I mean, it's all entirely on them. I just react to what they do. I don't know how else to put that, because really they're in the driver's seat. So if they want to topple a kingdom, they can certainly try. That will have great effect, even if they fail. Most players just want to keep their head down and become rich adventurers, at least in D&D.
Yeah, I'm very much of the same school there. It's like, just kind of depends on the situation, the scale of the game, but they could potentially do anything. I had a group with, like, put one of their, as we wrapped up the campaign, basically put one of their own on the throne of this kingdom, and it basically ended with, okay, they're the new regime. But it depends entirely on the scale of the game you're playing and what you're doing exactly. I mean, are these guys running an army, or is it just kind of like this group of jerks just going around trying to make money or make a nuisance of themselves?
This is what the Codex Albana game is for you, Max. You guys started as just a little group, and you went on some trails, and you met more people, and slowly but surely your focus as a group expanded to where now, where you guys are, there's an entire entourage of your people moving independently from you across the island towards ultimately Palladium and the Queen of Palladium, while you guys are still trying to sort of, you're next off to Ishmir to try and get them to join your whole thing. So you guys are building a domain style play but you're going through the entire process of it as you're doing it. You're gathering allies and all that kind of stuff. Troop play could fit in there, but it won't, because this is a game about prophecy, and therefore every character has a purpose until they're dead. And then they've fulfilled their purpose in the Pendrick cycle, and we'll see what they bring in as a replacement character after that.
Okay, well, I got to pause here for just a second. I normally don't do this for memberships, but I will today. My wife popped on in here. But Agile Monk gifted 10 memberships. That's $50. I'll count that as a $50 super chat for that. I can't guarantee I'll do that every time, because I know some of you people have already talked about getting me drunk. Don't do that, please. But I will do a shot to Agile Monk for the 10 gifted memberships. Now, folks, for those memberships, what does that mean? We got about 5,000 videos in there. You heard about, I remember when Max used to rant all the time. Well, guess what? Now you have access to those. You have to find them, but you have access to them. Thank you very much. What is it? Okay, so whiskey. Okay. Anyway, and you'll have access to like these live streams after the fact, because this video isn't going to go live for a month or about a month. So you're going to have access to everything. So awesome. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Agile Monk. Do appreciate that. And he also became his own member. So there. That's right. We're going with some cheap stuff. I love it. 100 proof Southern Comfort. At least it's not weak. It's not that 60 proof crap.
The Mountain Dew of hard liquor.
Right? I'm okay with that.
Just drink water at that point.
I'm a cheap drunk. Leave me alone.
I used to drink SoCo and Coke. That was my thing when I was in college.
Yep.
Then I discovered Scotch and went, what the fuck is this bullshit? And I'm just not a Scotch.
Yeah, I was SoCo and Coke, and then I had a couple bad instances. Then I turned to screwdrivers, and then it was Kahlua, and now I drink whatever my wife puts into a shot glass. Thank you very much, Agile Monk. This is to you, and then we're going to continue on with the show. All right, and I spilled half of it into my mustache. Lovely. I'll be tasting that for a while.
Taste it later. Yeah, exactly.
It's an excellent cleaning solution. Well, maybe not Southern Comfort.
It's drinkable for me. So, all right, and Thraxus, thank you very much for your membership. All right, so I know, Bear, I haven't skipped you, but I just don't know if you're going to be. If I can ask you a direct question on this, so just jump in whenever you want.
Okay.
Have you guys ever?
What I thought was.
I did say that. I did say that. Have you guys ever run into continuity gaps due to the rotating nature of troop play, whether game masters, again, you don't really do the game master side, but even players, and what measures do you take to prevent them?
I don't know about measures to prevent them, but I can certainly say I've seen players do it in 2 different campaigns. Case in point, I had Bunny was playing in the Friday Heroic game and the Tuesday game that Sean was in. And at one point in the Friday game, she suddenly started acting and reacting and thinking about connections like she was her character from Tuesday. And it's like, no, different campaign. Oh, shit, So I think that can certainly play a part of it.
Yeah, continuity isn't generally an issue because I'm only running one game, and games are played one at a time. So the continuity would happen when I'm running multiple games set in the same world, which I've done, which can take a bit of a toll. But yeah, regarding troop style, no, not so much. The players are keeping track of their own things. So once I hand off the XP that I've awarded, I scratch out my notes and say, if you lose this XP, that's it. Forget it. You're done. So keep your notes clean. Every once in a while, a player will maybe get 2 of their characters confused, but that's a minor thing. It doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, I don't think it's a particular to that style play. I think that's just something that can creep up whatever, but I've never had any particular problem, I think.
All right, I'm going to do something a little. Go ahead, sir.
I was about to say something did happen at my Clericon tables that was fun, where there was actually overlap between what the players did. Group A on the Saturday went to a certain location, had an interaction with that location, and then because I do the 1-to-1 real-time thing, Group B on the Sunday went to that exact same location. So I had to remember what Group A had done and leave it there because I recapped this in my videos. So that was actually kind of interesting because the Group B didn't know what had happened with Group A, and so I was just, to them it was all this weird. They thought there were clues. It was all red herrings. They thought it was some clue I'd laid out, but it was really just the aftermath of what Group A had done. So that was fun. That was an issue of sort of continuity in relation to sort of troop style.
Yeah, you are not the only bunch of armed idiots running around here.
Welcome to Tennessee.
So I'm going to do something a little different here. We're going to go out of our expertise a moment, just so we can have a little more discussion on the potential rotating DM stuff. So just for everybody out there, these guys don't play it this way. This is a version of troop style, but this isn't what anybody here does. But we're going to theory craft this a little bit. So just think for a moment that you three are going to swap DM roles at some time or another. That'll be great. Where's the question I wanted to ask? Okay, would you, or do you think it would be a good idea to designate a single person as the quote-unquote world curator?
Absolutely. If you're going to do that, I think somebody should definitely be in charge, and you should probably have something of an outline of what's going to happen, at least the major beats that everyone agrees to beforehand, so you don't completely screw each other up.
I guess it depends on what you're going for, but yeah, it wouldn't hurt.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
I had a player in one of my games who would take notes. He loved taking notes, but he would always take the notes from his perspective, right? And then he would write up a session summary and email it out to everybody, but it was all from his character's perspective, the shit he thought was important, the stuff that mattered to him. So they'd be like, the first couple of ones, they'd be like, yeah, but what about that thing we did? What about that thing we did? My character didn't give a shit, you know? And then eventually they really got into it because they were really like excited to see what stood out for him. What did he notice? You know, it was really kind of a fun thing. So you can curate in the same mentality, I think, to a certain extent. But I would say probably I would want everybody to curate and everybody to take notes because of the bias of missed observation.
I think
really
Max
need
was referring specifically to the world building as opposed to.
Yeah, I get that. But I'm just saying you could do the same thing in play and just have them keep track of things, of where they went, who they met, what they saw.
Right.
And then that way the world building is built between all of them together by comparing notes after. Oh, yeah, I forgot about we met that one-legged goblin. I totally forgot about that guy. You know, like that type of thing. So it could be fun. Or I'm wrong. Whatever.
No, I think you make a good point. How would you guys guide or manage? I hate the word subplots, but that's all I can think of right now. That sprout from side adventures that sprout from different players' ideas to ensure none of them overshadow another. Basically, how do you stop one player or maybe one or two player characters? I'll say player characters from kind of becoming the center point.
Well, that's just dividing, giving everybody a little bit of a spotlight, and that's table flow. That's managing the table. I mean, as a group, they're generally going to decide what they want to do. So where they go is on them. But after that, it's a matter of, okay, so if a group splits up, for instance, I just sort of keep an eye on the clock and say, all right, I've given this group 5 minutes. Let's go to the other group, give them 5 minutes, and then sort of alternate. As opposed to, having two players twiddle their thumbs for half an hour while you're dealing with one person, right? So you gotta manage the time.
Yeah, it's mainly the game master's responsibility, but I think also good groups will police that internally.
It's funny that because my groups have always been good at that. I'm accused of like, oh my God, Max, your groups always sound like they're hell. No, usually when I talk about bad groups, they're either one random individual that joined us or they're groups that I saw at other tables. Okay. But no, my groups, like for all these things that people say, oh, Max sucks at this and Max is horrible at that. My groups did a really good job of attendance, of treating it like an intramural sport, not just as like, I'll show up if I want to, I'll not. If I don't want to, I won't. The first person role playing, things like that. It was all encouragement. Don't get me wrong, wasn't browbeating, but those are expectations at my table. Again, new players and people who screw up don't get berated. People are obstinately refusing. People who just, I don't do that well, then you're not welcome at the table. But the group did that way more than I did, and I loved it. And this is in multiple locations. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, a solid group won't put up with with BS from within the group.
Yeah,
They're usually the first on that if there's a problem. If it comes to the game master, then it's become like a serious issue, I think. Although the game master has to be aware of that and ready to step in and deal with that. But usually, if whenever possible, I think if the players can deal with that internally, I think it should be left to them. They should at least have the opportunity to deal with it themselves, unless the person is just uncontrollable, and then you got to come in and sit on somebody.
Again,
you get yourself a nice big leather bondage spanking paddle, and on studs have it say DM Fiat, and just be like, you crossed the line. Explain that to your
That's the
wife.
advantage to in-person games. I think everyone should be fitted with a shock collar, since we're going
For
from
online
monkey.
games, I would agree. For online games, that's some Bluetooth control, right? Like that's the thing.
Everyone, get out your dice and put on your taser belts.
Taser belts. No. Taser collars.
Knowing once again, and this will be the last thing I harp on, which is again theory crafting. How would you handle a situation? And I'll just put because they're at the opposite ends here. Doc, for whatever reason, starts favoring a couple of characters that are now having the expectations that whether the story revolves around them or these certain NPCs give them due deference and so on and so forth. But Sean and Bear don't necessarily pick up on that so much, or like now these players, not so much the characters necessarily, but the player characters have become insufferable.
Sucks to be them.
Okay, hang on. The players, if it's me and Sean, are also insufferable. Let's be honest.
Fair enough.
Well, no, they have to understand that when the gear shifts and a new DM takes over, then it's a new game, right? Even if they're playing the same characters in the same continuity, there's a new tone, a new style. And yeah, just because Doc favors two players or whoever, that's great. That's his game. But I'm not necessarily going to do that. I would outline what I expect at the table for sure with my style of play, but you don't get to come in and demand to be the star of my show.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, if I'm the game master and you're being shown great favor and deference by like NPCs, I'm setting you up for something.
And you know what? You pass it off to Sean to let the anvil fall so you don't get in trouble. I see what you did there. All right. Anything else you guys want to try to address when it comes to the rotating game master style? I know none of you do it, so there's no expectations here.
All right, well, just say no to drugs, kids. Don't ever listen. What you as a GM and your players do is between you and God. Do not let anyone else touch your players. Do not let anyone else touch your campaign. It's yours. It's theirs. It's a collective. Anyone else wants to GM your shit, tell them to start a side game and you'll happily play it.
I'm not as versed in this style of gaming because, again, I'm a Hickman Revolution guy. But aren't Bronstein games, aren't they essentially rotating game masters?
Don't know. Bronsteins are too expensive for me, man. I just go for the Around the World. It's a lot cheaper. It's like you forget who I am. It's so adorable.
Okay.
There's somebody at YouTube who's like, do we demonetize that? I'm not sure.
All right. Well, let's get ready. We'll have the final segment here in just a moment, which will be challenges and solutions in Troupe-Style play. So we'll take a look at that in a moment. Before we do that, we're going to hit some chat here. And let's see where this. Again, thank you very much for the memberships and the super chats that everybody's been donating. And because of ASUN, I actually have a really cool program that I can run now where I can add everybody's name like that. So I'll take some time off after. Again, people are watching this on video later. You will never see this, but for the end portion of the stream, I will take some time. I will run that script again. It will add all the new people in, and you will be in today's giveaway as well. So congratulations.
I love that, Max. That was the best. So for all you people watching later, you're not going to see this. So I'm telling you something you're not going to see. But I just want you to know
it for the folks that are watching the live
even
stream.
Even though you won't see me telling you, you won't see it.
There you go. Well, they'll see this part. They just won't see the next part. For the folks on the live stream, I have to let them know. All right. Where are we here? Already read that one. Beat Magnet says, our tradition is that a player gives the GM the player sheet. The GM tears it in half and hands it back. I don't know. Maybe I think that's a little bit of a dick move, if you're doing that every time. But hey, if that's what you signed up for, I get it.
One of my most favorite moments back when we were playing Dungeons and Dragons was asking for somebody's character sheet, erasing Paladin and writing Fighter and handing it back to them.
Yep. Did you do the -2 levels also?
No, I did not think to do that, but it was incredibly gratifying to see the look on his face.
Some players just don't know how to play Paladin.
You killed an old woman after breaking into her house. She was yelling. You broke into her house.
This is why I love the... Go ahead, Bear, sir.
No, go ahead. It's your show.
It's why I love the Palladium alignment system so much, because you can just look at what a principled character would do, and it says, we'll do this, we'll not do that, we'll do this, we'll not do that. Unlike the people that argue with, well, unlawful good, but I think it's the ultimate good. It's like all the excuses that people make. It's like, nope, stop. So that's definitely an area where the Palladium alignment system excels. But yeah, I've had a character lose Paladin Hood. I was angry too, because that was one of those games where you actually had to roll that charisma. So, I don't know if first edition does, but second edition is you have to have a 17 charisma. And I rolled. I was like, yes, I get to be a paladin finally. And then I was a douche nozzle. Yeah, I was straight up a douche nozzle. He took it away from me, and I was angry.
I cut off a priest this past Saturday because he violated a tenet of belief. He'd gone too far. He'd been systematically violating them, and then finally he went too far. And OSE lawful priests considered a taboo to reverse cast magic, and he did reverse cure light to a cause light wound. It's like it was a dire situation, but he had already been flouting the tenets of their faith. And I was like, okay, now you've got a redemption quest.
Yeah. You don't fight with the guy.
I love that you did that, the redemption quest part. I think that's awesome to allow people to regain it.
What was funny was after he did, he just doubled down on the irreverence. He's like, people are telling him his wife, his real life wife, is telling him, because she's also playing a priest of the same faith, like telling him, it's like, try showing him some humility and honor the beliefs of our God. And he's like, are there any other gods that are more fun to be around? It's like,
wow.
Okay.
That's going to go over real well.
I'm gonna quit the Church of Fultus and start the Church of Funtus. It's like, yeah, okay, keep digging that hole.
Yeah, if I have religious characters, like especially spellcasters in a game, I make very clear the gods are my characters.
Mm-hmm.
They think what I think.
Is not technically illegal in the world, but it is a big no if you're a cleric.
Yeah. Plus, what new god is going to want to take you on? Like, oh, you're that asshole. Yeah, I saw what you did over there. Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, but you're the fun god. We'll get along just fine, right? The Edgelord says we have a death pool, a gigantic folder of dead characters. I have none recently. Then again, I haven't run many games recently, but from my 90s crew, I have an entire folder up there of dead characters. Yep. I didn't start doing that until I was in the Air Force, though. I wish I had some of those high school ones. New member. Thank you again for the gifted memberships. Damn, I wish I had players that did. I forgot what that was about now. Oh, that was for taking notes. That was when Bear was talking about players that took notes. I've always had one. But as Bear said, it's always from that player's perspective, because I would give role-playing experience points out for doing that. So, wait, that isn't what happened. Yeah, but that's what my character says happened.
I like doing that. I make little journal entries for every for all the sessions. I like doing that. It's a fun writing exercise.
Well, it was pretty cool because the character who did it in my longest running Earthdawn game was actually playing the Troubadour, which that's part of their job, is to recount history. So he made songs and recounted history in a very, very jaded view. If he did not like you, and that included the player characters, you were not coming out on top. Yeah. Raphael says, I think it'd be interesting to have a group of players in a Twilight 2000 campaign play as both a group of NATO soldiers and a group of Warsaw Pact soldiers. Could be fun having two groups. I had a little different take on this. I think Troupe-Style play, pardon the term there, Troupe spelled differently in this case, but Troupe-Style play would be awesome for a game like Twilight 2000.
That would work really well.
You have your infantrymen, but you have your specialists. You have you can have the vehicle. You could have a vehicle, almost like you're playing BattleTech. Crew. I mean, there are a lot of things that you could do with that with Twilight 2000.
And if you had opposing sides, especially in a situation like that, you could have them like initially in conflict and then have to come together and form like a united band. You could do all kinds of fun stuff with that.
Agile Monk says, Mage's Musings. I started playing in 1974 and DM and GMing games in 76. When did you start? I ask. So he's not like, look at me. I started back when Gary gave me my first book. He isn't doing that. He's just saying, hey, I asked because I recognize so many books on your shelves.
Yeah, I answered him up thread, but yeah, I started in 86. The red box I bought it with money from grandma when I was 13.
Grandma.
Oh, you and I are the same age, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, a couple of months apart.
Because I started in 83, if you want to count it. It technically started in 83, but it wasn't until like 85 when I played Battle Droids that I really started understanding what gaming was. There's a long one here on the Twitch side. I'm only doing this because I want to recognize it. Yes, I am streaming to Twitch as well. I never use Twitch. I hate Twitch. I wish Twitch would go away. But that's the best highlighter, so it makes life easier for me post-stream. But he says, I was once running a horror game, and we had a guest player. He teabagged the first foe he beat. Says, is this guy playing a computer game? And was constantly cracking jokes and not taking the game seriously. Yeah, I'd rip that guy out immediately. I gently warned him that this particular game was intended to be serious. Okay. After 2 more infractions, I docked him some XP. You're nicer than I am. I would have done it right away. He looked around the table in disbelief, looking for support from the other players, and my gorgeous players simply told him he had been warned. He played beautifully for the rest of his session, and all had fun. Awesome players. Kudos to your players. I'll even say kudos to you for standing your ground on that one. I absolutely give out. So I used to do, and I'd still do it now if I had a table game, slips of paper. And on this slip of paper, because I actually do XP. I don't do milestones. So if you killed something that's worth 600 XP and there's 6 of you at the table, that'd be 100 XP, 10% more for the fighter, yada, yada, right? But I also put role-playing experience on there. Think of it as like pseudo milestone. You discovered this, you accomplished that. You played your character fantastically, and we loved it. Even if it was detrimental to some degree, we still had fun time, whatever, right? But yeah, you show up late, you get docked XP. You play like a douche nozzle, you get docked XP. Absolutely. I've actually given people negative XP before. That doesn't happen a lot, but I have had to do it. But usually, exactly what he said, the party handles it. The players handle it, I should say. So good stuff, and I love it when players do that. All right. If you guys don't have any more follow-ups, so I guess we'll head into segment 4, if you're cool with that. Mm-hmm. See if I can remember to put the banner up this time. I got to get used to this new format that I'm doing here. No, that's the one I want to do. There we go. Just as a reminder, Game Master Insight airs live on Fridays at 6 p.m. Central Time, except for the last Friday of the month, because that's our members-only live stream. And now that we have like 12 new members, guess what you can do on the last Friday of the month? You can join us for the members-only stream. It's an AMA. That means ask us anything. Ask me anything. But as long as you don't want my bank account information or Heathen Dog's firstborn son, we're there to answer your questions and talk to you guys. So come hang out with us for the members only stream the last Friday of the month. But once this stream ends, the full live stream will remain available to YouTube members only, while the 4 panel discussion segments will post to the public a month later. And just as a note for people who know how the rando stream works, it's only going to be 1 video now. I'm not going to break it into 4 videos. So you're going to get beginning to end all 4 segments as 1 video, because I think that's just easier on everybody. Of course, if you enjoy this discussion, please like this video and subscribe to all of the panelist channels, which you can find in the description. All right, let's get into our last segment, challenges and solutions in Troupe-Style play. But before we do that, before we go into the last segment, we'll have our panel briefly remind us who they are, what content they create, and where you can find them on the internet. And you know what? For this one, I can start with Bear. Bear, go ahead.
You get one shill out of me a night, brother. Now you're pushing it. I am not the droid you're looking for. Look, it's
He's
right below
there,
my
the
name.
Gen
After the Gen
XGM.
HGM. Subscribe. There you go. Mage, Sean, take it
I was
away.
about to say, subscribe even if he tells you not to.
Don't.
Subscribe because he tells you not to. How about that one?
Yeah, there we go.
Hate subscribe. Click. What are you gonna do now? All right, Mage's Musings. Who are you, and
I'm
why should
Sean,
people?
host of creator of Mage's Musings. My host is actually a puppet wizard. Mainly, I recap my games, which not uncoincidentally are both Troupe-Style play, so you can see the recaps and how the games go on. Yeah, and I use a puppet host to keep it fun, mostly family friendly. The odd little bit of cheeky commentary, and I'm planning to do a little more theory craft this year as well.
Nice.
But I got to catch up on my backlog of recap videos. So, yeah, that's me. Come check me out.
We need more people making specifically videos in niche areas like this. As you guys can tell, I don't do troop play. I'm not interested in it, but I think it's an important style play for people that might be interested to actually. It's like domain play. I don't like domain play either. I've done it before, but it's very popular. It's something that people like to do, and I'd like to see more stuff like that out there. So that's awesome. It's good to hear.
My big project this year is a multi-part series on AD&D First Ed Combat, breaking it down step by step. It's a it's a bit of a big one.
Look forward to that. Hey, so if you haven't subscribed to his channel, you might want to do it now. Hey, click that bell button so you get notifications when he does that for you. And of course, we have Doc Flamingo, his first time on the Legion Myth Virgin. So, sir, once again, briefly remind us who you are, what content you create, and where people can find you on the internet.
Oh, I'm Doc Flamingo on here on YouTube. I've got some stuff on Drive-Thru, which is in the link, and got a new game coming out probably in about a month or so. So check that out. It's pay what you like. I'm far more interested in reviews and ratings than money, although I will take your money.
That's awesome. All right, I got to put this one on the screen. Yes, I did a little twiggy there. That is true. I actually like the Buck Rogers comics as well, but no, I watched the '70s show because even when I was 6 years old, Aaron Gray was hot. So, all right.
That's the truth, Buck.
My favorite character is actually Dr. Theopolis, the little light bright guy.
Not to go too far down the rabbit hole, I rewatched it 10, 15 years ago with a roommate. We watched the whole series, and all we could say was, man, nobody in the future knows how to do anything without asking Buck questions, right? So at one point we're watching
caveman.
and Dr. Ewer calls Buck. He's like, Buck, I have a question for you. And my roommate just went, how do I leave the room? How do doors work? What do I do? Buck, save us.
We've all become stupid in the last 200 years.
Well, that's what happened. That's because they had the internet. Never mind. Let's move on. TikTok brain. This is what happens with TikTok brain. All right. We're going to start with Doc Flamingo on this one. All right. So you've already defined Troupe-Style play and how you utilize it. And we've talked about, player and game master roles to some degree in that. So what are the most significant hurdles you have encountered in Troupe-Style play, and how did you overcome or mitigate those challenges?
I would say the only really big problem is it can be, depending on how big an organization you let it become, it can be a lot of paperwork. You got to keep track of some things. But other than that, I think it's very much the same as regular play. I don't think it's not as different as people think it is. It seems like a bigger deal than it is. But if we're it's similar to domain level play, running that in terms of paperwork. There's more to keep track of, but it's otherwise it's very much like a regular game.
If you were to offer some advice to somebody who's thinking about it, maybe somebody skeptical like me, or somebody who just doesn't know where to get started, if you were to offer some advice, what advice would you give them?
I'd say start out small. Have a couple, have them bring us some hirelings, or have them hook up with an organization that is already doing that, and just have them run around with these guys for a while. And if they like it, you can pick up and start doing that with the party. If they don't, you can always move on. And of course, you can always, if you want to do something with a small group of people for an extended period, you can always have them separated from it. You can always have some contrivance where they're off on their own for a couple months out in the wilderness doing something on their own. It's, start out or with a temporary group, like they sign on as like hired guns for a big group that's doing this, and you see if they like it or not. And if it's not your thing, just have them leave and move on. If they get into it, they can go with that.
Okay. Sean, same question for you. What are the most significant hurdles you've encountered in troop style play, and how have you overcome or mitigated those challenges?
Well, the one thing that came up with it's sort of on a metagaming level is one player wanted to start dividing his character's loot amongst his other characters so that they could all level up. And it was like, at first I thought, it's like, no, I'm not gonna. Then I said, you know what? No, I don't care. I don't care what the characters do. The quest and monster XP goes to that one character. He doesn't get a choice in dividing that. But the loot, hey, as far as I was concerned, they were a community. They all knew each other. So it just came down to a matter of adjudicating whether or not it was logical for that character to do so. Because I use the rating system in my AD&D game. So if he's acting out of character, a chaotic evil, for instance, generously bestowing gifts on all these other people with nothing in return, well, yeah, you're getting a ding on your rating. But it stands to reason that a lawful good who wants to keep everybody, well equipped and ready to adventure at any given time might start bestowing extra treasure and loot to help out his comrades. So I just didn't make a thing of it. It's like, all right. So that was the sort of thing. But that's something you have to look out for. People might start metagaming that kind of thing. I don't see it as an issue when it comes to divvying the loot. That's the player's choice. It's like, all right, by all means, if you want to slow one character's advancement to keep another character sort of on par, then so be it.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the things that I've run into with alignments is that everybody that I've ever played with sees alignments similarly, but a little differently. And it allows, dumb stuff, in my opinion, like, oh, Paladin, look that way. I look that way. Murder, murder, murder. Oh, my Lord, what happened? I didn't see that come. Really, what I consider really bad role playing, right? But using your example,
you get a rating ding for that.
I know players that would just absolutely get incensed over that, especially like the idea of the chaotic evil. I'm giving him stuff to keep me alive. You can't tell me that's not being selfish and being evil. Like with that kind of veracity. You're telling me that I can't do anything that is for me if I give him something, even though I know full well that by giving that to him, I'm going to get mine back. Or he owes me, whatever.
And in some cases, I might accept that argument. It will really depend on the situation.
Sure, I get you. Again, this is why I so much love Palladium's alignment's better. But yeah, the alignment discussions, I don't think there's that, and level of draining, I think, are the things that cause the two biggest fights in Dungeons and Dragons, in my experience. Nothing compares to those two, but.
I use level drain. Yeah, I love it.
The way I always dealt with the level drain was if you killed it, you got it back.
You get it back through the XP from killing it. What I do with level drain is simply you don't have to retrain to gain your level. That's your bonus. That's your perk. So if you get level drain and then get XP to go back, then you're not retraining and having to pay all that gold. It's the information, the strength is coming back. But that's it. I mean, there's a reason level draining monsters, are feared.
Yep. But I've seen characters go completely suicidal. Yep. Oh, I got level drain. Screw that. I'm not doing all that work again. And
just logic is dumb. Your level 10 character goes to level 9, and you would rather suicide him and start at level 1 again. Okay.
Yeah, most of the games that I played in, though, didn't start you at level 1. It usually started you at the lowest level of the group of the party or whatever. Yeah. So I've never actually tried. No, that's a lie. I have done it. It just didn't go over well. Anyway, that's a different story. I do have one in the works. I haven't finished the questions for yet on alignments. I'll have to ping you on that one when it comes to the alignment debate, because I think you'd be good for that. So do I want to jump over to Bear? Yeah, actually, I do, because before I hit the follow-up questions here, or if you guys have anything for each other. But Bear, instead of I'm going to say, what do you think would be some significant hurdles that you can think of for troop style play, and how do you think they could be overcome?
Well, the hardest one for me was getting players to agree to try it. They just didn't want to do it.
Even in the Star Trek version? Because your Star Trek version, first of all, you're a Star Trek fan, and secondly, what you said makes perfect sense.
Yes, players and perfect sense. Look at those two dichotomous ideas that you've got right there. Hey, perfect sense, fucking players. It takes a long time to get players to a position where they get their ego out of the process, and that they understand that it's just a game and they're having fun, and it's like theater sports, right, with dice and swords. Some players are it's psychologically such a this is where I have power that they can become a very difficult player to work with sometimes if their characters aren't doing what they want or they're not succeeding how they want, or they're just vicariously working through. As I've always said, role playing is not therapy. You get a fucking therapist. Don't bring it to the table. But some people can't do that because it's all about them and their ego. What's really rewarding over the years is seeing certain players I've worked with who have gotten away from that mentality and are now more about the game, the group, the campaign, and having fun. I think true play could work, but a certain type of player.
I 100% agree with that. It's not for me, but I think it is something that should be espoused out there as an option for folks that want to do it. I fully agree with that. I'm going to put this the same follow-up question that I gave Doc for both Sean and Bear also is what advice would you offer to people who are just starting out or want to get into troop play?
No, same as Doc. Just start small. Have the characters, have your players make your backup characters, and tell them that they're not obliged to swap out at a drop of a hat, but to consider them. Just consider all your options, and look at that. When you go in, when you start a session, if you're the type of DM who's laid out the adventure for the day, it's not necessarily an open world sandbox. Tell the players to consider the information they have and work together to decide on what the group makeup will be. So embrace that concept, but other than that, not worry about it. Don't make the story about a given character. Don't make your campaign about a specific character.
That's a perfect segue into a kind of, I know you addressed this already, but let's address it again. What techniques do you use to re-engage players who may feel left out?
I just try to give them a little bit of a spotlight. You check in with players during the middle of a session. You see where they're at, ask them what they're doing, if they have anything special that's going on with them, things like this. Check in. You don't need to drop the campaign or whatever else is doing to focus entirely on them, but encourage them, because players are different. Players have to. Some shy players will take time coming out of their shells. And then you don't want to do too much, because then they'll feel pressured. So I think just keep it simple. Check in and make sure they're still at least engaged. Because I've had players who you sit there quietly, you don't think they're engaged, but they're really paying attention. Some people just like to watch the show, which it seems kind of weird, but that's just a type of player.
Yeah,
my comment about DM Fiat spanking paddle seems to work.
Yeah, my game master experience so far has been totally in person. I'm only just going to start my first online game in a little bit, but so I mean, it was always people everybody knew. So just I basically would give people like time to like get more comfortable, or I might have something happen that's kind of specific to a particular character if I want to draw attention to them. Have some an adventure come up that has something to do with their family or something where they're kind of by necessity moved a little more into their fore. You don't want to like pressure the person or put too much like weight on them if they're feeling really resistant, but you can ease people into it just by bring the spotlight on them a little more. And usually if it's a group of friends and stuff, everybody's generally cool with that.
Well, here's another thing with specific to troop style that can help a shy player come out of their shell is sometimes a player, especially a new player, will come to the table with an idea. And so they're playing that idea, and then they find they're not liking or it's not working. Now you've got these instant backups that they can pull in and say, oh, this character is actually in practice a lot more fun to play. And you've got that character ready to go and the framework for them to swap out. I mean, it's not saying you can't do that in a non-troop style play, but it's right there. and the player theoretically has already given some thought to the other characters.
Yeah, one of the things, we were talking about, me docking XP, and people are making comments in chat about that, and so forth. One of the things that I would do is I would find a player that isn't a strong role player, and I would focus more time on that person, not throughout an entire session, but focus more time on that. If Sheriff is watching, he knows one of the scenarios that happened. He wanted to build a statue, I think it was, to one of his gods or whatever. And instead of being like, "That's cool, go ahead and just let me know what it is," we had a back and forth in that. What is your character thinking? How does your character want to put it together? We didn't take a lot of time because it bore the crap out of everybody else, but enough where he was getting invested in what his character was building there. And I would also dock XP for bad role playing for folks, or give less. I shouldn't say dock in this case, but give less. If you keep talking over every time that Sean's trying to role play his character, already knowing these kind of a typey personality, sitting back a little bit, Doc just jumps in, like, "Hey, stop. Calm down." Obviously the players take care of that. But yeah, I was like, the fact that Sean was trying to come out of his shell and that Doc was over injecting or trying to tell him how to role play, whatever. Yeah, I'd bump Sean up a little bit. Good job. Keep it going. And Doc, hey man, like, look, I get it. You're invested in the game. I absolutely appreciate that. But your character's being a jerk. You're stepping on everybody's toes. If that's how your character is, I don't, how do I say this? I don't dock for you playing a character the way I think you should play it. I dock for the experience at the table, if that makes sense. So if your character is chaotic neutral, doing all the chaotic neutral stuff, and the players in the group are okay with that, I'm not going to dock you. But if you're supposed to be a good guy and you're doing all these practical jokes on everybody and it's frustrating as hell to everybody, we'll talk about it. If you keep doing it, then hopefully that makes sense. Getting a little bit off topic there, but yeah, I love the idea of helping, having the party and helping people come out of their shell to some degree, and maybe sometimes holding that type A personality back a little bit.
Again, the shock collar. Solution to every problem.
I was going to say something, but I'll stop.
Okay. Most of the other questions that I had were regarding Game Master stuff. So I'll finish up with one more follow-up that may or may not be relevant here, but I'm interested if it is. And that's like, how do you mitigate the risk of a player feeling overwhelmed by Troupe-Style play? Like, which character am I supposed to play this time? Oh my God, who am I with now? How do I do these things if such and such doesn't show up at the table? This is more of a new player concept, but if you have a player that's feeling overwhelmed somehow, analysis paralysis maybe, how would you help mitigate that risk?
Just tell them to choose. Don't worry about failing. Just choose and run with it. Now that's usually the biggest problem, is they're afraid of failing, afraid of screwing up. And just if you can just alleviate that fear, just play, have fun. Don't worry about things going wrong. Inevitably things are gonna go wrong, so you might as well make it part of the plan. And just make your choice and go with it, and try to have fun. And that'll have different degrees of success depending on how uptight the person is, but generally that works. Play the one you want to play. Don't worry about what other players are telling you to play. That's a first one, because you get a lot. How many people have had to been saddled with a cleric they didn't want to play because everybody else had all the other classes. We need a healer, right?
Oh, I love playing clerics, but if you think I'm going to be a heal bot, you got another thing coming.
Yeah, but how many new players have been pushed into playing the cleric when they really wanted to be a thief or something, right?
That's interesting. No, that's an interesting point, because normally, and am I? Let me know if I'm in the minority in this one. We usually gave the new or newer players the first choice. What do you want to be? Because most of us were experienced enough to play whatever. Sure, maybe I wanted to be the thief, but if the new player wants to, of course, having two thieves is always awesome anyway. But if the new player wanted to do that, we wouldn't take that away. We want to encourage that person to sit at the table and play.
Well, I always tell them, don't worry about party composition. Everybody's like, well, we have to have a fighter. We have to have a magic. No. Just play what you fucking want to play. Don't worry about the party composition. You can figure that out in game. If you're a fighter-heavy party and you got to hire a specialist, a thief, then you hire a thief. You don't worry about one of the players being one, right? Play what you want to play, because if somebody's forced into a role they don't want, then that's the quickest way to dissatisfaction.
Yeah, you can make anything work. I played in a game once. It was 4 people. It was 3 paladins and a cleric. It was one of the most fun games we ever
One of my
played.
favorite college bands. Holy Roller being their debut album.
All right, do you guys, as a whole, any final commentary that you guys have? Anything that we didn't touch on that you wish I would have at some point, or anything you want to clarify or just get off your chest? Otherwise, I think we're good. I think we can end this one.
I would just point out that the Capellans are vermin, and that the Taurian Concordant will destroy them in the end.
The Taurians don't hate the Capellans. The Taurians hate the Fed rats.
Oh, no, we hate you too.
That's fair.
Invested in this fucking game, okay?
But you'll have to go through the magistry first, so have fun with that. A bunch of libertarians with guns everywhere.
Everybody play this edition. Convert right now. This is the D&D edition you want to play.
First just play what the fuck you want and stop letting people tell you what to play.
2E is bestie. Anyway,
and to new players,
1E is best.
And to new players, you're a player. You're going to disappoint and annoy me, no matter what you do. So
I have to have you and Heathen Dog on the same episode. I really, really do. At some point here, I'm going to find a topic that you and Heathen Dog can be on together, because that will be just absolutely amazing. The vitriol towards players was just, I'm going to have it somehow graphic that just pours down the screen. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. I just want to remind folks that this Sunday, RPG Digest is back also, and I am starting a new series where I will be diving into Rules Cyclopedia. That's right. This is the year of old school for various different games, and we're starting off with Rules Cyclopedia. Sean's going to put up on there. Yes, that book right there. We're going to be reading through it. By the way, that is a dense encyclopedic book. I have 30 videos coming out for Rules Cyclopedia. 30. So that is a very dense book that it's a cyclopedia, that's for sure, but
it's
I love
a quality
it.
Product. 100%.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is, and hopefully that will shine through when we do our read through of it. It's kind of a dry read, so we're going to have to make it fun, but that's actually what I like about it. It's written like a technical manual. Oh my god, I love it. Anyway, and the Heathen Dog is going to cover the Rifter number 12, because he still can't get through that big monster tome of Wretched Flesh that he wants to cover. So as soon as he finally gets through that, then he will cover that as well. But he's going to do the Rifter number 12. So Palladium fans, we're back for you as well. Next Friday on Game Master Insight, we are going to talk about in-character consequences for character actions. And joining us that day will be Connell, Crispy, and Rollin' Bones. That's right. We're going to have Rollin' Bones back for the first time in like 2 years or something. So it's going to be fun to see what they talk about when it comes to in-game consequences for character actions. So let's read some super chats here before we move on here. Did I have any? Nope, but I did have this. Beat Mag, at Beat Mag, 2025 gaming advice from Max. Yeah, I'm docking you 400 XP for that, and you missed the game last week, so I'm going to need you to fuck off and never come back. That might be the way people take what I say, but not exactly how it works out in the game. One of the stories I tell is that I had so many people that wanted to be in my Earth Dawn game that I actually had a backlog. I can't run 10 people. I'm sorry, I'm not that good. If you want to say, oh, I can do it, great, you can do it. Kevin Simbita can run 26 people, apparently. I can't, at least not happily. So the rule was, if your character dies, you're out and somebody replaces you. The amount of care people put into those characters, wow, that was like night and day difference. Whoa, guys, whoa, do we really want to do that? I don't know, do you? And I loved it. It absolutely ended up being an awesome part of the campaign. So yeah, no, the players that I've had in my groups have, with a couple of rare exceptions, have been absolutely amazing and great, and they promote the style of play that we do. So, but that's really the only I've run up to 10 for TMNT, and I didn't like it. I did not like the game. What's that?
14-player Rifts game.
Yeah, Rifts. I mean, similar to TMNT in that regard. Yeah, I couldn't do it. Like at least I wasn't happy with it. They were. I wasn't. And part of I have to have fun too, right?
Yeah. No, well, the 14 players was a merging of two different groups for the big finale fighting war from the Africa source book. The
Sure,
Hosting
yep.
Podcast.
Now
So
that
it
sounds
wasn't an
cool.
ongoing full campaign with 14, but it was two separate groups. We brought everybody together for this big mega battle. Everybody had a good time, but I couldn't sustain something like that. But 14 is the most I've ever run. It was a long table.
I think 10 is the most I've ever run. I don't remember doing bigger than that. I may have in high school, but all right. So let me throw this up. Where is this? All right. Well, thank you very much to tonight's panel, Mage's Musings, Doc Flamingo, and Bear the Gen X GM. Whether you agree or disagree with any panelist, I sincerely hope their perspectives both entertained and educated you and gave you some food for thought for your future gaming sessions. If you enjoyed this discussion, please like this video and subscribe to Legion of Myth and all of the panelists whose links you can find in the description. Now for my final comments on this. I wrote down some notes here. Put me back on the screen. That's right. This is like Rick and Morty. This is like the after credits where you get a little bit more. What I put on here. I was going to ask this as a question. It's too late now because this is my time. One of the things I'd be concerned about me, this is for my taste, this is for me as a player, this isn't to say that anything about this is bad, is I don't like to split XP between different characters. But Max, you said that you can play characters that don't gain XP. That's true. But if I'm playing a game where XP is awarded, I would struggle as I'm growing this character, doing what this character should be doing. Now I'm over here playing another character. I just feel like, I don't want to say I feel like it's a wasted week, but I feel like in terms of character growth, I kind of feel like even role playing, I would rather role play my main character, if that makes sense to folks. So it's not a style that's for me, but it could be a style that's for you, especially if you're in more of the game aspects of it. I can absolutely understand why folks would want to be in true play. I think Mage's Musing said it earlier, 1-1 time, folks. Makes perfect sense. You know, I personally fast forward through time like that. You know, if somebody really is like, oh, look, we're going to have downtime of 6 months here. I want my character to do something. Maybe I'll run a one-on-one session with them or whatever. These are all things that I've done in the past, but troop play just, again, isn't my style. I absolutely loved Bear's, when Bear said the red shirt concept, that made much more sense to me than anything else. And I think that'd be a great way for players to start. I mean, these guys gave you some great suggestions on how to ease your way into it. I think that would be a fantastic way, whether it's a Traveler game, a Star Trek game. I'm sure you could figure out a way of doing it fantasy. I think they talked about Blade Runner earlier. It absolutely can be done. That's not for this. Actually, that has nothing to do with this either. So those really are... Yeah, those are the only real comments I don't think I brought up or I wanted to emphasize. My other notes are irrelevant for that point. So, yeah, thank everybody for being here. I hope that you enjoy this. Hope you kind of like the subtle changes to the format here. I'll work on, as I always say, not yapping so much during the show and try to save it towards the end. But I struggle with that because I like to say my piece as well. Thanks again to Doc Flamingo, Mage's Musings, and Bear, the Gen X GM. And for those who are watching the live stream, we'll be back in just a moment.